Doreen is popping pills over here. I'm good. You're going to be, Pat, the sheriff's out here. You're going to get in trouble for dealing up here.
None of it. That comes right up. And out there.
One count.
You got your fix? Yes, it is. It's 9:02. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Stand and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty. Let's pray. Please be with us throughout the day and help us navigate whatever comes our way. Most importantly, help us to reflect and live out our lives in a way that is honoring you. Brief moment for your own intentions. Before I get a motion to approve the agenda, I'd like to, we got a call from Northern Hills Diversion. Is that right, Rhea? They asked if they could be moved up. I said I would try to fit them in somewhere between 9:30 and 10, just so everyone's aware. Other than that, I don't think there's any other changes. I got to get a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda with,
A motion and second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Opportunity for public comment. Does anyone from the public wish to speak? No one wishes to speak today. Let's move on to routine business, Register of Deeds. One from Register of Deeds office, State's Attorney's office.
Ken Clubred, Chief Deputy State's Attorney. Discovered late yesterday that the numbers for the cases closed was wrong based on a change in the programming that we use. It was showing initially, oh, maybe they did get it updated. Initially, it was showing we had 5. So I didn't realize they had it updated, so we should be good. Thank you.
would have been a slow month.
Question for the State's Attorney's office? Sheriff's office.
Nothing. Good morning, Sheriff Pat West, Commissioners. Nothing really exciting to add. Just calls for service continue to go up. We're about 250 above what we were last time on this month, just for the month. Overall, things have been really busy. Obviously, had some good rain, so we haven't had much for fires. Have had some questions reference the burn ban, which Chairman Deering and I have discussed and got out to the fire chiefs and the public. But outside of that, things have been going well, so no issues.
I had a call this morning. Fireworks in the right-of-way when people drive outside of Rapid to light fireworks. What do we do with those?
And do you have anything to add? Don't
that might be over my head on that one. I don't know.
That's why I brought it up today.
That's a good question.
Of course, there are areas of the county where it's banned. Black Hills Fire Protection District, Black Hawk, basically everything that side of the interstate. The other side of the interstate, we own it. If it becomes a problem, enforce it, but you're not going to stop it. Realistically, it should not occur. But it happens all the time. Especially, the closer to Rapid Yard, the more often it's going to happen. They're banned in Somerset as well. That doesn't mean nobody shoots them off in Somerset.
Right.
It means if it gets to be too much of a nuisance, then they go knock on people's doors. So,
Before you leave, I do have.
unfortunately, selective enforcement is probably where you're going to end up at.
Are you done with that? I was
Yeah.
It just reminded me of rights of way. I noticed that a certain campground has put 3 porta potties in the right of way. Is that allowed?
No.
And I assume it's theirs, but it is like right on the edge of the road.
Get with Troy and see if he can verify that for you.
Okay, I'd never seen that before, so
Yeah.
okay.
You could really sail high on that, which reminds me, since you brought that up, what happened to Buffalo Chip and the bus loading after the concert, etc.?
We're back to status quo, what we were doing last year. Buses will be allowed to stop on 132nd and load and unload as long as they're not blocking traffic. We're going to maintain that. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I guess along with your porta potty question, I have been getting some emails of signs and technically nothing is allowed within the right of way. Is that correct? Deputy State's Attorney said kind of correct.
Yeah, that is correct.
I think I did get an email this morning about someone putting signs up again. So we'll keep an eye on that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's that one going up Vanacker. I have gotten that email on that several times. Do you know whatever happened to it, Rhea?
I talked to Troy about that this morning.
Is that the same one you got the email about?
I assume so.
Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff West. Any other questions for Sheriff West? You look like you're in a hurry to get out of here, Sheriff West. Treasurer's office.
Robin had a family funeral last night across the state, so she won't be in today. The state still doesn't have their software program completely figured out. And she has a new hire, and she's optimistic.
Do you know how the reception's been with the hours change?
Okay, I guess.
And they're able to, is that helping them out?
Yeah.
See, Troy. We need Troy here or Rich, or this is just a continuance that I can skip to. Deborah's not here.
It's on there, right?
Yep, the continuance to joins powers agreement with South Dakota DOT.
Yeah, so we can do that.
Okay,
It's
I thought so.
Everything that's an us
Yep,
thing.
this was just continued from last time. The exhibits were not included on this.
Correct.
So therefore, we felt we better put the exhibits back on.
And I think I talked to Talbot briefly yesterday about this, and I think that we still have a change that we'd like to add to the agreement, and then Talbot, you can verse that piece better than I can.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what Doreen and I. My concern is doesn't say that we'll enter an agreement, but it certainly implies there's some kind of tacit agreement there, and like probably some revision to Section 4 that clear to a future commission that if study gets done that they're not bound by anything. I've struggled with exactly how to say that without doing a major rewrite, but that's kind of my concerns at this point. If you look at that Section 4, it's understood by both parties, preliminary engineering, in the anticipation of the parties reaching an agreement, agreement. That doesn't say you've reached an agreement, but I mean, I could see somebody in the future arguing, well, that means that if you go forward, you have to reach an agreement.
So the last sentence, does that allow for that to be really whatever is discussed at that time and not?
Yeah, it does some. It's a bit clunky.
Because it could entail Captain Solazor Road instead of the entire thing, whatever that would be.
Right. I mean, I think that's. But I guess I'm expressing my concerns about it, and I'm not exactly sure what the easiest fix is without me.
Do you have some language, Mr. Wyzorek?
Well, I was kind of working on some last night, and then looking at it again this morning. I'm not sure I like it, but
Ken, could you just come to the desk, please? Ken, if you just come to the desk in case you have anything to add.
If the concern is binding a future board or a future member of the highway department, perhaps the terms and conditions of such future transfer, comma, if agreed upon in the future by future boards or future parties, if agreed upon by the parties in the future, comma, will be negotiated.
Yeah, but it almost makes it sound like we agree. And I don't think we do.
No, I'm not saying you do or you don't. I was trying to address the issue of future boards.
Well, and yeah, I agree, because then it goes without saying, because we can't make a decision for a future board, neither can they. I struggle. This has been a contentious issue on this document for quite some time. I know every meeting we've had, I've been clear that the commission is not real crazy about any trade.
well, I mean, I could see a trade for.
I understand.
Bit. I mean, that's the
shouldn't say any
problem.
trade.
I mean,
Yes.
I think there's other jurisdictions that play into this to a certain degree. So
The tone of the meeting with the DOT essentially was, well, regardless of what the future brings, first step is the engineering. Well, they still, looking at the road swap.
And we add a further sentence, would it, I'm asking the legal minds here, if we had added a sentence saying this, Section 4 in no way binds the future board of any agreement?
Just how about the parties?
The parties, would that,
Because that would be inclusive of this board
and the state.
and future boards
and the state,
yeah.
would that clear it up, Mr. Wyzorek?
Yeah, nothing herein binds the parties to any road transfer or whatever, future transfer.
Why do we even have to mention Sturgis Road in this? Why can't we just eliminate all that? Because what we're after is New Underwood Road, and if they get the grant, I mean, I can't see how we ever come out ahead if we get Sturgis Road in lieu of New Underwood Road.
Well, yeah, I'm not even come out ahead, even come out even.
That's right.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to stick the state as much as I'm trying. But if I was negotiating this, is just to make it fair as to how it works with the jurisdiction.
Because aren't they tying two things in together? Aren't we just after getting the grant? And so why do we even have to mention Sturgis Road? I mean, they're two separate issues.
Yeah, they are. And I think part of this is, the original agreement we axed a big portion out of it. I think it was like section 6.
Yeah, section 4 basically eliminated all the descriptions of the exchanges.
Yeah, originally it was that the trade was in place.
Right.
So,
And I think the highway or DOT, their point is, look, this is all wrapped up in the transfer, so let's keep the descriptions in it.
Oh, I know what state's aim is, but I don't think they recognize all of our aim either. But if we get the big grant, it helps everybody. And
how about maybe? I like the chair's thought, because I was like looking at revising, but maybe just adding a sentence at the end of 4 that states, parties acknowledge that this agreement does not require either party to agree to anything. And just to make it clear, that's all open. The difficulty is, I think if Ken and I sit down, we'd probably both agree from a lawyer standpoint, you can't agree. You can't have an agreement to agree, is how they say. And this looks like an agreement to agree, but as, a commission or even the engineers for the state could be, the way it's written right now, I'm worried they're saying, well, we had this agreement that this transfer was going to occur at some point.
And a perception.
Yes, I just want some clear statement that is not part of it. So, unless, I can make that as a motion to add that if everybody's comfortable with it.
Rich, I think you have the Word document.
and I am comfortable with this, but and part of this is the first step in the communications with the DOT, trying to get the engineering started. We don't have a grant for the project, so this is to allow the DOT to work in our right-of-way to start the process so that we can be set for the grant application a little bit better. So I appreciate that they're working with us, and this is the first time I think the DOT's worked with us on this road. So I don't want to say kick it down the road and rewrite the entire thing. I like Talbot's approach, just to keep it moving in the right direction.
And we could either, you could make a motion to add that, Commissioner Wysorick, or this is not, we don't have a motion on this. We could also, what I'm possibly thinking, if this document, other than that sentence, is everyone's comfortable with, it would be nice if we could approve this document with that language and then see if the state will accept it. And then we don't have to come back to our next meeting. It would just be approved. That way, if they approve it, it's done.
That's what I'd...
So we could, I guess it would be acceptable in my mind to approve it with that change. That would be an acceptable motion, I would think.
So you want to make a motion to approve the agreement based on an amendment, or how do you want me to do it?
Approve, I guess you could approve this agreement with that sentence added, is what I'm saying.
Rain, you had raised issues with it.
Yes, there are more issues.
I want to make sure that somebody who's not a lawyer can read this document and see that we're not getting Sturgis Road. And whatever it takes to do that, you have many paragraphs about it, and then we got a little sentence saying, may not happen.
And
keep
in mind, and that's why I came up with that language, I'm not an attorney, so I think that would clear that up. But there are possibilities, Commissioner Liggett, of some offshoot roads that would work for us for a trade. So part of keeping this ball rolling and this grant and getting help from the state with this grant is to say that there is some other things that we could trade. Sturgis Road, none of us like Sturgis Road. That'd be a nightmare. But there are, and you named some different
there's
offshoots.
7 roads that there is in that agreement, or in
Yeah.
that exhibit. Some of those roads they are working with the local municipalities on, so that will change overall anyway, if we get to a location where we're talking about railroad swap.
And we have to keep in mind that getting this grant behooves not only Meade County, it's equally important for the state of South Dakota. And I bet you there's not another road they've gotten this many letters about.
I think it's been really good conversations, and honestly, with Secretary John, we've expressed that we did not want Sturgis Road. We did take a big portion out of that, so.
Well, again, I'm no lawyer, but we can say things, but unless something says it in writing and makes it perfectly clear, it doesn't matter what we say privately. Right? You lawyers.
Well, I guess that's why I'm asking, is the attorneys are comfortable with that sentence? That would not make any implication for...
Well, like I said, I think Ken and I would both agree that the agreement now doesn't require the transfer, but the way the language reads, some people might read it that way. So...
and adding Gary's language goes further down that road. That doesn't mean somebody can't read it and still think we're going to make the trade. You can't seal it off from someone's opinion. But I agree, either way, as written or adding the additional language as additional backup.
Again, I can't understand why, when it's two different things, one's a grant and one's a trade, why we got to have both elements in the same contract. But then I'm no lawyer, so, and I have not been conferring, but...
Yeah, I think I understand the motivation to be, there's a reason that the state might spend a bunch of money, that there's a process here. Because, frankly, the DOT guys might be looking at it, I got to explain this to my board over the next 5 years too, so I can say, yeah, it's our first step in trying to get to an agreement.
And with that said, the DOT policy is no added roads. So to keep this ball rolling, they've got to have, I believe that's what they would say.
I believe that's
because they've told us time and again they're not adding roads.
Oh, I know.
Well,
they're going to keep.
I understand, but that's where the
tell them that's our policy too.
I understand, and that's where the negotiation can come in. But at the same time, the grant, we don't want to drop the ball on getting a grant.
But they're building new roads to prisons.
Let's get either get some action or continue.
I'll make a motion to authorize the execution of the contract with the following sentence being added at the end of section 4. The parties acknowledge that this agreement does not require either party to agree to any future trade. And then that, Chris, I just emailed that language.
Thank you. Motion.
Do you need to add the word highway transfer? Okay.
I mean, because we're talking about the transfer in
I know.
section. So
Any transfer would cover it, any transfer.
72-point type.
I need a second. I got a motion and a second on the floor to approve this document with that added sentence that was sent over the Secretary. Any more discussion on that motion?
yeah, I think it's worthwhile to try to chase this grant.
Yes.
I honestly think the state should make that a state highway. It makes perfect sense with the growth, what's going on. Some of the difficulties I see with the county taking Sturgis Road, there's a cost component, but there's also a minimum of 2 other jurisdictions that road goes through. And it troubles me some that you've got roads going, several roads, big roads going through Rapid that the state seems to want to keep, and not make Rapid take, but they want the county to take a road like this out here. So I think there needs to be some kind of balance in the approach.
And have you seen what they do in Sioux Falls?
Sioux Falls gets anything they want.
Any more
That's
discussion?
right.
Any more discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I have one comment on the highway. We are milling New Underwood Road up right now, so be patient with the crew out there.
Yeah, that's just that 6 mile
7
section?
miles,
7
yeah.
mile section? Not the whole thing.
Not the whole thing, just that lower 7. Hopefully, it does become a little bit more drivable.
Anything else on highway? All right, let's go to human resources.
Turn your mic on, Deb.
Okay. Human Resources Director, Deborah Bransrud with Meade County. The reason we are on the agenda, I'm here supporting Pat, is we have had some discussions of moving one of his full-time equivalents out of the deputy sheriff position into a sergeant's position. Not adding headcount, we would not backfill into the deputy sheriff. But it would be a higher wage for the person that would be moving into this position as a sergeant, and could be up to $3 more depending on that individual that applies for this opening. Pat has some needs. Currently, we have 2 sergeants, and 7 days a week, 24 hours. And with the increase in workload for those 2 sergeants, Pat would like to address. And he has my support from HR. We've had a lot of discussion, like I said. We've looked at the job description. He's put together a memorandum to post internally, because it would have to be an internal position because we're not adding headcount, of what kind of shifts and what the needs that are not being currently met by our 2 sergeants.
Yes, Sheriff Pat West. So the end goal on this is to assist on shifts where we don't have supervision in the field. Currently, we have 4 shifts, 2 day shifts and 2 night shifts that are alternating. And there's times during the day where we have sergeants that are not available to deal with day-to-day calls out in the field. It would help with that. Also, what it would help with is monitoring and maintaining our civil process more efficiently, along with transports of inmates, whether it be to the hospitals across the state, any type of mental health issues, things like that. This sergeant position would be pretty much what I would call a rover. So if we are short somewhere, this person or this individual would be able to cover those shifts and make us more efficient and respond to calls in a better manner and deal with different calls in a better manner. So overall, again, I think it's going to benefit the overall office as well as customer service to our public, as well as just our needs every day.
But we're not looking for like approval or anything. I think Pat just wants to share with you that he's putting forth this change. He's got the announcement ready, but just wanted to know if you have questions or.
So why wouldn't he need approval to add a new position?
He's not adding though. He's just
Well,
moving.
but it's a new position.
It's not a new position.
Well, it certainly is a new. It's a whole new title of position. That's like saying.
No, it would be under the sergeant position.
Right, but you're adding a whole new sergeant position, and it's increasing his budget. There's no discussion here as whether it's within his budget.
Yes, I looked at it, Commissioner Warzorek. I believe that the budget will cover that. Again, and also, I believe it's going to eliminate a lot of our overtime costs because this sergeant won't have a set schedule. Be able to rotate, move, and adjust their schedule to deal with our daily needs or even nightly needs, depending on what goes on.
Yeah, I appreciate you trying to fill within your budget. The response of it's going to decrease your overtime I've heard that from you multiple times, and your overtime is still blowing out the books. So I kind of throw my hands up between where the overtime's been, because you still have significant overtime between that and dispatch.
Understand, and we're still trying to modify that. Dispatch, we're bringing in new personnel all the time, so that's one issue. When it comes to deputies and their overtime, it's hard to predict what type of calls that we receive, and our sergeants are doing a good job trying to identify when people need to go home and when they need to stay and do their shift. So when it comes to overtime, I'm hoping that this is going to benefit it. That's what I believe that it will.
And I'm going to go back to you, Deborah. I mean, I don't understand how. So can any department just come in and say, I'm just going to take somebody internally and give them a higher position, create a new higher position, and we don't have a say in that? Is that what I'm hearing you tell us?
If he wants to move his current head count or open up a position internally to add to another one, and he's not adding head count, and he has the budget to do that, I didn't see where he had to have that approved, but to inform the commission about what his plans are in his department. I'll just tell you my thoughts, and I did share this with Pat as well. I've watched Pat now over 2.5 years trying to figure out the right pieces to the puzzle, okay? Sorry if I say something wrong or if I offend you. Pat not being a sheriff for a while, he's been in his other role, his other career path. He's needed some time to figure out this, where he needs the right amount of head count, this and that. And I know he's doing it step by step, and maybe not the way somebody, I'll just say in the private sector, who has tight business plans and things like this that have to be met, and KPIs. So he's figuring out this puzzle. And we have met quite often in the past year, going through where his struggles are, where his overtime is, what causes it. Yes, he does get called sometimes, the deputy sheriffs. It does bring them into overtime because it could be right before they go off shift and they have paperwork or they have a booking or something like that. But this is one area that has been a concern, and it was a concern with Sheriff Merwin when he was there as well, that the two sergeants we had, because we had one leave shortly after I got here and it was not replaced. So instead of adding a person and the duties that these sergeants are fulfilling, it seemed to make more sense just to shift a head count than rather to ask for a whole new head count. Is it the long-term answer? I'm not sure. I would have to see, along with Pat, how these duties help make this more efficient so we're not bringing sergeants. Right now they're getting overtime as well because they're being called out when they're on their time off, because there's just the two of them. But he's figuring this out, and he's, I'm sorry, but I think you need a little bit more time, about another year, to make sure you have the team and the structure in place exactly the way you want it to work, right? I mean, that's all I can say. It's still a work in progress.
The move makes sense. You don't really have to explain the move to me. I'm a little bit with Commissioner Wyzorek. We've done these in the past. We've done it with Highway. We've done it with your department as far as restructuring and getting different people in different positions, and it's always come to us for approval. So this would be unique on that step. Okay. So I'm a little bit again. I'm not necessarily saying I'm against this move, and there's a lot of sense that it makes, but this is very unique because we've always done the structuring. The department heads have come to us with that, and because there is change to budget, it sounds like it might improve the budget. So I understand that, and so that part you don't really have to explain to me. I think this makes sense, but it's the process that we need to go through, and I would agree with Commissioner Wyzorek that this is a structure change. It could impact budgets, so that it's probably something that should come to us for approval of a structure.
Then we would need to backtrack and do that in Highway, because we have a few positions we have moved around into mechanic or other areas, they have not come for approval either.
Why?
So we would,
And why?
So those are brand new those are brand
none
new.
of these are,
Well,
no.
let's differentiate that. Okay, so you got 2 mechanics positions. Did you add a third mechanic position, or did you just move somebody internally?
We moved somebody internally
hole?
into a mechanic, but there
Yeah.
was no open position for mechanic.
But same wage?
No, same situation, was a couple bucks more an hour. So,
Okay, I
it's a
guess I
grade
would-
up, about 2.5%.
Well, I mean, so nothing would prevent a department head from coming in and saying, all my people need to move to a higher paid position. And you have no say as a commission?
Except for budget restrictions.
Well,
And that's
that's the
my
problem.
concern.
But then they say, "Oh, I'm just not going to spend this year. I told you I was going to budget for this." But then they're going to show up with their new budget and say, "Oh, you got to keep my people." And I gave everybody in my office a $3 raise because I changed their position.
Then I would suggest there should be a presentation of their org chart of where their head count is and if they want to move someone, so that there's something for them to talk about. Because right now they're filling needs in those areas of, and there could not be an opening, but they have an opening for the whole department. So if, let's say, for instance, highway is down 3 HEO Class A's, but he really has a need for an additional mechanic, he'll say, I'll just want to take one of those positions and make him a mechanic then. Okay, we have done that.
I'm going to go back to sheriff. I would assume after we had shift changes, we went to the 12-hour shifts or whatever, right? 10 and 12 hours.
Yeah, I assume, I'm not sure what was prior to me,
Right,
but yeah.
right, after you came on. So that requires a difference in the structure for leadership, and every shift needs a leader. That's how I look at it. And I would assume during more traditional hours, the leaders are you and JJ. But you and JJ can't be there 24/7. I mean, you are for the really serious things, but everybody needs to have somebody they can turn to. And I don't think 3 sergeants is out of line.
Mr. Chairman, just to highlight, thank you for that, what Ms. Brandsrud said too. When I started, there were 3 sergeants initially, so when we adjusted, we went back to 2 because one sergeant retired. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and me personally, the ask is fine. Like I said, I'm with Commissioner Wyzorek. I'm just confused on what our role is, and as much as anything, as far as the structure, the budget, like I said, when these changes occur. So in fact, this is on the agenda. I think we could take a motion to accept this, and I'd be willing to entertain that motion. But with that said, there seems to be maybe some disagreement on the procedure of when these changes are occurring within departments, because I guess, if these are happening, I'm confused why this even came to us if this has happened all the time, is what we were just told.
I don't want to say all the time, but it has happened in highway, that we have made a change. And I would suggest at this point that maybe a attachment or submission of the org chart change would be reviewed to make sure that it was okay. That would be a better place to probably approve that change.
And I know when highway added some sergeants, I think in sheriff's office, since I've been on the board, we added, not added FTEs, but we switched some of this around, and we did approve those at that time. And some of the other changes that I'm hearing about here, I don't know about, obviously, because if it didn't come before us. But like I said, I don't necessarily have a problem. I'm with Commissioner Creed as well. I don't think 3 sergeants are out of line. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the procedure of this is what I have a question on.
You're probably right. It would be nice to have a chart. During all this time, I was sitting here thinking, who's the captain? Is that JJ?
Captain Dale, Caleb Dale.
Oh, okay.
Who is helping with the jail and civil, inmate transports, things like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you don't have, I don't mean to say, a real captain over deputies. I mean, Caleb is up there in the jail most of the time. And all those related duties.
Right, and he's third in line if something needs to be adjusted. But we don't have a patrol captain, we have a patrol lieutenant, which other places do. This would just be the other sergeant.
You might send over a list of what everybody has. In other words, and you also never replace Ron White, right?
What's the desire of the commission to do on this?
So I appreciate you coming in and discussing what this is. Ultimately, it fits in your budget. It's a shift of a person. When we get to budget time, then if there's a position that's there or not there, that's maybe where our role is. You've got an approved budget, so I think that's where it sits. But that's me. It's not about moving those. And I think the change to sergeant is a good move. To be honest, I think having those three in there is a good idea. But ultimately, it's the budget. You got to meet your budget. So.
Well. You can't predict crime and departure, but since there has been so many changes over there, it would be a good idea to get a list of everybody. I don't even know who some of the deputies are anymore.
We do have an org chart, but Tony has hooked me up with some software. And my intention was before budget and with the labor report was to create one for each of the labor reports for the department, so it would be easier to talk to. I'm just used to working with org charts versus numbers and people and how many in this department. It's easier to see the configuration and how they work and their roles and interact with each other. And I'm happy to do that. It would probably take me about a week to get them done.
Just moving on, Commissioner Weiser, you have anything to add?
Well, I'd ask each department head to put it together, and then you just assemble it.
Throwing my voice.
Okay. I guess we will move on if no one...
Well, if you do an org chart, it might be nice to see what the org chart looked like a couple years ago, so we can see how people have moved around. We've changed ground planning equalization. So we kind of get an idea of how it's tracking through as opposed
to reach back in my brain, but probably could do that.
Well, I think the department heads
can help
with
with that.
Provide that, or there's old org
If
charts.
I just probably faster for me to do it, but that's okay. If I can pull information from them, I can. I will if I need to go back, say 3 years.
It might be a good exercise for department heads to do it too, to see how their own departments change.
Yeah, they should know where it is.
I've never seen anything other than from highway.
I've got an org chart.
Yes, you gave me one when you started.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We have org charts as well.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah. So, okay, if we're not taking action on it, let's move on. Auditor's office, we can get through that quick, I think.
Ria Crane, Meade County Auditor, and I have provided on board docs our monthly report. I will tell you that June was consumed by a lot of election work, honestly, helping with school elections, and also by helping with school elections, I mean sending them the information that they needed for their registration books, etc. And we are now finished scanning the voter registrations into Total Vote. We have a big distribution list purge that we have to do by July 10th. So we're getting everything cleaned up, ready to do that big purge. We do have Christina Sprick starting next Monday, which we are super excited about, down in the auditor's office. And Laura has taken on the project of the outstanding checks. She sent out letters last week, and we are getting some responses, so that's another big project that we're happy to be underway with.
Good. Any questions on that report? Let's move down to the overtime report. Is there any questions on that? Not, let's move down to E3.
I-
Okay, what's your question?
Do we have any idea, Pat?
Sheriff West, could you come forward, please?
How's the restructuring and the dispatch coming?
Mr. Chair? Yes, we are, we had two that left us. So now we are back and we have hired one. Actually, there was three. So we hired the one that's Chandler, who's taking charge of the dispatch. The second one, we hired a certified, going from Pennington.
Good.
Kevin's not going to like me when we get done.
That's okay.
We're potentially looking at another one.
He's pinched here.
So we've lost a couple that weren't certified, and it looks like we're replacing two that are certified. So they'll be turnkey.
So we will have maybe two certified on each shift now, maybe, possibly.
That's our goal, yes.
And
We still have a couple that are pending to go to the academy. We had two that recently graduated 2 weeks ago. So I believe we have, it would be 6 right now that are fully certified. 7, 2 vacants, and then one, I believe, needs to go to the academy. So, and those 2 vacancies are going to be backfilled with certified people, we believe.
So,
Right.
that's the best we've been in a long time.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Across the board, whether it be corrections or the sheriff's office or dispatch, we're fluctuating 1 to 3 throughout the entire agency. And before, when I got here, we were down 15. So things seem to be moving in the right direction and getting better. Again, having uncertified and unqualified people in dispatch is difficult, but I'm confident Chandra's going to figure that out, and we're going to get things on the right track.
And because they were uncertified, it necessitated having more trainers and stuff in communication while they were
OJT on the job training. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And so probably after the rally, we should be seeing a decrease in.
Outside the overtime with the rally, which is a necessary evil, but
Yeah.
correct.
And you're fully staffed for the rally because that's next month.
Everybody's in line, and we are ready to go.
Any other questions on the overtime report? Now let's move down to E3, budgeted cash transfer. This is a transfer of cash from the general fund into our 911 fund. This was budgeted for. Will require action.
It says emergency management fund.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, it is emergency management. I apologize. The code was 101911.
Yeah, we knew that because we're not fulfilling the requirements to get
Out of the general fund.
state reimbursement.
Make a motion to transfer the funds from general funds to emergency management fund in the amount of $18,850.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor to transfer $18,850 into the emergency management fund. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's move down to, is there anyone here from Northern Hills Version? With them up, you have a conflict today, so we allowed you to step in. We do have a hearing at 10 o'clock, so we're going to have to try to get done by then. But if you could. There. Well, I'm going to try to give everybody about 10 minutes today. In your case, we might have to cut that down to just a little bit.
Mike, make sure you turn your mic on.
Is it on now?
It is on.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Lexi. I am the Executive Director for Northern Hills Diversion. I am here today because I am requesting outside funding from you guys for the fiscal year 2026. Our organization is a juvenile diversion program that works with youth that have gotten into some kind of criminal trouble. The goal of our program is for youth to be held accountable for their behavior through a combination of community service and education within their community. Now, our program originally started as Lawrence County Teen Court about 30 years ago, and in 2023 we expanded to include a teen court also in Meade County. I believe there was also a partnership where we provided a teen court in Meade County many, many moons ago before I started as well, but most recently since 2023. We've also been working with the state for the last few years to provide conditional release options as well for youth in Lawrence, Meade, and Butte County. And with that, we have also been working to include diversion case management services as well. Now, I'm here today because I'm asking for support going into fiscal year 2026. We are asking for $15,750. This is in line with the Juvenile Justice Reinvestment Initiative. Last year, the state increased that budget from $250 per successful completion to $750 per successful completion. We are on track to have 21 successful completions from Meade County this year, and so that's where I came up with that number of $15,750. We are going into our last year of our Alternatives to Detention grant through the state, with the goal being that we are self-sufficient after the end of this grant period. We have been very, very successful in our work with Meade County, and we work very closely with the state's attorney's office, as well as with other organizations to provide our services. Right now, so far this year, we've had 10 youth from Meade County on our active caseload for 2025, and we have been able to have 10 youth placed on conditional release from Meade County. So those conditional release youth are kids that would have otherwise been placed in JSC, in the Arise or Juvenile Services Center in Rapid City at an average cost of $300 per day. They would then be required to have that 48-hour hearing. So you're generally looking at a minimum of about $900 for a youth to be placed in the Juvenile Services Center in Rapid. Last year, you guys actually had an average length of stay of 23 days. Now, mind you, we all know that there's some kids that's where they need to be, and there's a reason that number is driven as high up as it is. But with that average length of stay of 23 days, that averages out to about $6,900 per youth that is in there. And with us being able to keep 10 of those kids out of JSC, that ends up being a cost savings to you guys as well. I'm trying to go really, really fast here. So, do you guys have any questions? Do you need me to kind of explain anything further, any of our work? I will say that we just recently got our numbers completed for 2024. I can't give our true numbers until about May because we do have a 120-day period that we work with youth. So if a kid starts our program in December, then we don't know what their completion is going to be until about April. But we did end up this last year with a 94% successful completion rate across all 3 counties. And I believe that we are on schedule for just one to have not been successful in the fiscal year 2025, which goes for the state goes from July to June. So when I talk about those 21 kids, I'm talking about that July to June budget for the state.
Any questions for Lexi? Real good. You're requesting funds out of our opioid funds?
I was actually requesting out of the Juvenile Justice Reinvestment Initiative, but I do see that it is placed under opioids. I don't know why.
That's where the money came from last year.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, don't really, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great. Ken, would you explain the opioid funds? I guess they're separate from, we have 3 agencies that are requesting funds out of that. You didn't talk slow enough because now I
Have
have to
the-
fill time before 10 o'clock.
The opioid money is from a number of settlements nationwide. It was recently announced by the Attorney General of a payment received this year from the Janssen Fund, but there will be 4 or 5 other payments that come in over the course of the year. I don't know, there's your money that was approved previous years. I don't know the balance of the fund. That's fairly large.
I believe if you look in admin section, you will see the up-to-date information.
So, the request has been paid out of here before. The juvenile justice reimbursement, that just goes into the general fund. It's not a separate fund that's out there. So that annually we get reimbursed from the state, and it just goes back into the general fund.
And these opioid funds they're restricted on what we can use.
Yes, they are, and part of what they do from referrals is drugs, opioids, that are being used by juveniles, and a first offense is a mandatory diversion. So we do get Northern Hills cases that I'd send over there that are drug related. So I do think they fit the purposes of the opioid settlements.
And these are funds that not necessarily, the amount is not necessarily guaranteed, but we'll be seeing them for another 5 years. Is that correct?
I think the shortest fund expires in maybe 4 from now, and some of them are 20-year funds.
Okay.
So, if they don't further declare bankruptcy and get out of them, yes, we'll have significant funds for a number of years.
I think Jackley just had a release that they just got another $8 million or something.
Yeah, that was from the Janssen Fund.
Yeah.
And that one I think was a 17-year payout.
Yeah. I want it to come out of the opioids rather than the general.
And there's no obligation for us to spend during that 20-year period. It's segregated funds for purposes that fall within.
There's no obligation for what we spend, but they can only be obligated to certain.
Correct. To accepted uses. And we reviewed all 4 of these in the past and feel that they fit. So.
Okay. I have a question, Gary. Do we have to approve these today, or can we approve all these outside agencies and the opioid funds at the budget time instead of today?
Is there any other questions for Lexi while she's sitting there on the hot seat? She's sweating right now, so you could answer that question. Yeah, I guess thank you for your time today.
Perfect. Is it all right if I give you guys a little bit of literature about us?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
If you want to leave some at the back of the room is for other people, that'd be great.
Perfect.
So,
thank you guys.
I guess in the past, the way the commission has done this to answer Commissioner Liggett's question was to generally after today they would take a motion to either approve at a certain amount, which has typically been in the amount that they funded last year. Me personally, I don't care for that motion simply because it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that means anything is when the budget is passed at the end of the day, that will be in September. So if there's any change, it kind of gives some people false hope that they're getting this money when we make a motion today. I would almost prefer we don't take a motion today, but that's you guys want to, it's up to every commissioner if they want to make a motion, I guess. I would almost prefer not to make a motion on these outside agency or the opioids today and look and see. We got a long ways to go on our budget process. We don't really know what's coming in. We have some concern with some of these tax bills that passed the legislature last year of what the future looks like for county spending. So I would almost prefer not to take a motion on outside agency funding today. I will accept a motion. Obviously, I'll have to if someone makes one. But I would almost prefer to wait till our budget dust settles on our budget before we make one.
It seemed like we approved last year, and then there's questions in the budget time last year. So.
Well, I think last year it came up. We got the money kind of mid-year, and as soon as one agency found out we had it, then they came in first, and then you ladies all followed, and eventually we got it distributed to the 3.
Yeah, it seems like it might be easier just do it all at once. That way we can limit that.
Anyway, and I was speaking obviously for the opioid funds as well as the other outside agency. I think it's just cleaner to pass it with the budget than if there's some money that moves around, we can do it that way. But that's would be my preference. don't always get my way, unfortunately. I'll pout if I don't, maybe. Well, let's move on to our 10 o'clock hearings. BF1, a continuance of renewal of 2025-26 malt beverage and South Dakota wine on-off sale license. Rhea, do you have?
Rhea Crane, Meade County Auditor. As you can see, that this hearing has been continued to the third hearing today, and I did send a letter out to the barn immediately after the last meeting, telling them that if taxes were not paid by today, that this license would likely not be renewed, and that it would affect their malt beverage sales as of midnight, June 30th. They do have a liquor license, so they can continue to sell malt beverage, but they cannot off-sale malt beverage and farm wine.
Okay, so,
Taxes are not paid as of this morning.
you know, I suppose we've got
Let me
to call
double
to
check
see if
them.
anybody's in the audience.
Yeah, does anyone from the audience wish to speak to this hearing? The audience wish to speak. No one from the audience wish to speak. I'll close public testimony on this agenda item.
So Rhea, I mean, they can't, as it sits, they fail to meet the requirements of state law for renewal of a license.
Correct.
So the appropriate motion would be to move to deny. We've got an application from them. They just can't make it, or
At this point, you would not approve this renewal, and they if they chose to renew or apply again for a malt beverage license, it would be a new application process.
And I believe once we deny it, they have to wait a year.
I did not get that from Department of Revenue yesterday.
Well,
That's
it
my
used to-
understanding as well, that you have to wait a year for this license to be
Yeah.
reapplied for, and the reason for denial needs to be stated in the motion. Proper person, proper location.
Right.
So I would say that they're not a proper person for failure to pay their appropriate taxes.
and this is sales tax?
Property.
Property tax.
Property tax. So they're behind on the property tax at that location.
If this application were to be approved at this level, it's sent to Pier, they then check on the property tax, or the sales tax on their end.
They currently hold a liquor license, which that comes up later, I understand. But they'll still have that. And
Yes.
nothing we can do on that.
Well, and that comes up in December, and if those property taxes are not paid then they could be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, I understand. I just didn't know if there could be a hold plate on that or something
Yeah.
until these property taxes are paid, but evidently not.
So then do we officially notify the sheriff, and he goes out there and tells them they can't sell off limits? Is that what you do, Pat?
Sheriff
Okay.
just replied he could put them on notice. So what is the difference, for the state's attorney's office, what's the difference in the liquor license? I guess that's going to be a judgment call, possibly. If they have a liquor license, what can be done on your end?
Well, nothing right now.
I think as the auditor explained, the malt beverage and wine is an on-off. So you can consume it on property or take it off property. The alcohol is an on-only.
Okay.
Thus, they can still serve beer on premises, but they can't sell you a six-pack to go.
So that would be good for the sheriff to know for if he's going out there, I guess, is why I asked the question. Okay. Does anyone want to take action on this?
I'll make a motion to deny the application for failure to pay property taxes.
Motion and a second on the floor to deny this application as a result of them not paying their property taxes. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I do want to note the auditor mentioned that she had sent a letter. I don't want people thinking that letters always or have to go out. Typically, it is not our policy to send letters because it could get us in trouble for if we fail to, or if we forget one. So I just want to note that that just because you got a letter one year or someone got a letter doesn't mean that we have to send letters out.
That was a courtesy.
That was a very courteous thing to do. Let's move down to item F2, which is a public hearing for the budget supplement facilities in the amount of $500,000 from assigned funds within the general funds. This is due to the roof replacements that we're going to be doing to the courthouse as well as the jail. This money is out. We assigned this at the beginning of the year, so we knew this expense was coming. We're just going to have to approve this going with a bid. We took the bids last week. We accepted the bids last week. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this hearing? Seeing no one from the public wishing to speak to this hearing, I'm going to close public testimony on item F2. Commissioner, comments, questions, comments, interaction on this?
I just want to point out that this will be the first time since we've had the law enforcement center that the roof won't leak.
Well,
If it's repaired properly.
yeah, I was gonna say, it's not done yet, so,
Is that a motion, Doreen?
yeah.
Yes, that's a motion.
On these budget items, do we need to move? Can we do it as one, or do we need to move it separately since they're going?
I would prefer you do them separately, please.
So,
Let me
let's,
get there.
I'll make a motion.
We can
Well,
pass
we've
this
got-
resolution. We can pass this resolution.
Which is what?
Is sitting, isn't this what
Yeah,
screen?
Notice of budget supplement?
It's
Yes.
up on your screen.
yeah, public hearing.
That's the notice. Oh, no, okay, that's
Oh.
a resolution, okay.
And then we got the resolution. Where is the proposed resolution? Yeah, here we
Yeah,
go.
this resolution is,
No, I had to pull it up on my screen.
so it'd be as easy just to pass that resolution.
Yes,
So that's your motion.
yes.
Commissioner Creed, do I have a second is what I'm begging
I'll
for.
second.
Motion and second on the floor to pass resolution 2025-19. Is there any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Ben, do you know yet how soon they'll be starting on this?
So they're starting right now.
I think
Great.
it'll be after the rally, correct? Before the rally?
Good.
Okay, let's go to item F3, a public hearing for the budget supplement for sheriff in the amount of $120,000. Sheriff West.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Sheriff Pat West, as part of this hearing, we're going to get Trent with State Radio on the phone. So if there's any specific questions in reference to the towers, analog, digital, etc.,
Please enter your access code.
he'll be able to help answer
Followed by
that
pound sign.
as more detailed than I'm aware of and can manage. So.
Could you give us a basic overview of what we're dealing with?
Yes,
in this
yeah,
area?
overview. When I began, Sheriff, in
Sorry,
Valid.
maybe.
Welcome to Instant Conference. Please enter your access code or PIN followed by the pound sign.
We should have Ben up here too.
Hi, Ben.
After the tone, please record your name to be announced to other callers in the call. Then press the pound sign to enter the conference. You will now enter the conference.
Trent missing over.
Has joined.
Okay, Sheriff West, if you could give us just a basic overview for this. I believe Trent is on the phone. He's with State Radio,
Yes, sir.
and he'll help us answer some questions if there's on the radios, I assume.
Correct.
Just go ahead and give us an overview, if you
Okay.
would, please. I think we're...
All right, beginning, when I became sheriff in 23, again, I'll highlight, I came in and there were significant issues involving radio coverage for our deputies. Not only along the, specifically it was along the I-90 corridor, there were specific locations in Somerset, Blackhawk, Piedmont areas where deputies could not get reception. Also, there's individual areas out east as well as some in Van Acker Canyon up over the hill. Part of that, I requested Chief Deputy Johns to identify what the problem was and what was a possible solution for us to help with that. He worked closely with Trent, and again, Trent's last name, I'm going to tear it up, so I won't say his last name, but he's with State Radio. And they've been working closely. They managed to get the legislators, South Dakota legislators, to fund a wage study, I believe for about $48,000 to identify what the problem was. They have finished that wage study. Trent has done significant work on identifying what the issues are. That study should be available soon, but based on what I'm hearing, it's going to be extremely expensive to put in what they one of the recommendations was the towers. Where the towers would be, how much they would cost, and whether or not we even had land to be able to put the towers in. So based on that, Trent was able to identify some of these radios, and they're called APX N70. They're the upper end radios that the Highway Patrol has been using for a few years. They have tested those radios along these different areas, and the results have been really extremely positive. These radios are being purchased on a lump sum by the, I believe, Sioux Falls PD, Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office from Motorola. And they've been given a discount from, normally these radios are at $11,000. They've been given a discount to just under $7,000. I believe it's $6,953.76 per radio. Now, what does this radio do? This radio will hit a tower for the radio tower. If there is not a radio tower available, it's got LTE capability, which they call a smart radio, to be able to grab cell phone towers and bounce off the towers so that our deputies would have coverage. Again, Trent and his crew has tested these. The Highway Patrol has tested these, and they're extremely beneficial for would be beneficial for our deputies, and would be a huge fix for our problem. The other thing that I want to highlight is when deputies go into schools right now, there is no radio coverage whatsoever. On occasion, there's cell phone disruptions. So these radios having both capabilities will fix that problem. We will have radio access in our rural schools as needed. So based on that, requesting a supplement funding of the 16 radios at 69 and some change for a total of just under $112,000 is what it looks like the final number is. That's the quote. Why now? This is available through Motorola. They've extended this contract and agreement to other agencies that want to come on board. The timeline is the 27th of June if you want to grab a part of this or be a part of this deal. In closing, this is a huge officer safety issue for our people. Again, we've had deputies involved in situations where they couldn't get out on the radio, couldn't get out on the cell phone, and we are extremely confident, and based on Trent's experience and expertise, that this is going to solve 99% of our problems, or it should be 99% better. So that's where I'm at. I'll stand by for questions.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this hearing? Anyone from the public wish to speak to this hearing? Being no one from the public wishing to come forward, I'm going to close public testimony on item F3 and open it up to commissioner questions and or comments.
So, Sheriff Welsh, I have a question for you. So then we have the request is for 16 radios. Is that for all of the deputies that are on the force, or is that just the specific ones that are in the area?
That would include the field deputies and sergeants that are working. That doesn't include any administrative radios. Obviously, down the road, we would like to get those, but we understand this is a big ask, and but it's extremely important that we get our field deputies what they need. So, yes.
So that doesn't give you a radio?
I will still have a radio.
But not one of these?
Not one of these to where I'm at an age now where if I go somewhere, I'm going to have 3 deputies with me, so I'm not going to need that extra help. So,
okay.
And the same with JJ, yeah.
You got to watch that. I see somebody else in the audience, and if you don't mind, Kevin, would you mind joining this? I'm just asking Kevin to come up for a second because he knows all about our radios too, since he did that for years. But my question is, if we get all this, why do we need to? Does the Highway Patrol still have analog radios, Trent?
Obviously, it's a question for...
They don't have analog radios.
Okay.
They have digital radios working off the state trunk system, and they use a feature called Smart Connect that toggles to their, it actually tethers to their AT&T FirstNet hotspot in their vehicle, and that's the same hotspot that they use for their computer communications, things like that too.
Well, I had sent Pat a note, maybe he sent it to you. I was curious how much overall we can also save if we don't have to have any licensing agreements for the existing Motorola, for the existing analogs, etc., if we get rid of all of them and not keep them as a backup, if this new radio will cover everything. And I would assume if the state only keeps the one, you have found that you don't need it anymore. Is that right?
Well, the state also operates some in certain locations some conventional radio resources as a backup to the backup, essentially. I think your conventional system that you have right now, it really depends on what agencies it supports right now. I think, Sheriff West is talking about Meade County Sheriff's Office. Do those conventional radio systems, do those support your fire departments? Do those support your other local PDs? Right. Do they support other first responders? And I just don't know the answer to that question.
Well, I know we need it for the fire departments, etc., but I don't know if we have to pay a separate licensing agreement for each different radio, etc., and if they all use the same repeaters and all that stuff, all that technical stuff, which, is there anybody in the room who can answer any of that stuff? Ben or Kevin?
Well, I can tell you that we have several analog repeaters in several of our tower sites that we have to keep. Now, I don't know exactly how the deputies talk daily on which channels, but I know we've got Highway Department, PD1 and PD2 still use their analog channels very heavily. There's Emergency Management Channel, all that stuff. So, that being said, I don't know what the cost for all these licenses is because that doesn't come out of my budget.
Yeah, do we know whose budget it comes out of? Is it coming out of yours?
No. I did talk to Sean Henderson, emergency manager. He does pay some maintenance fees for some of these towers, but I'm not exactly sure when it comes to the analog how that works.
Well, maybe in the coming weeks before we do our budget, we can find that stuff out and find out if there's anything we can eliminate, because with these new radios, you're still going to be able to talk to PD1 and PD2.
Well, Sturgis has their digital channel that they've been using. And again, we tested that last year and overwhelmed the system. Trent has worked and tirelessly and put additional funding towards creating 2 more channels digitally out here. We're going to test that again during the rally and see if that works. Trent, am I speaking out of line on that?
No, you're correct. We've increased the capacity of the state radio site in Sturgis by 40%. So that site has gone from a 4-channel site to a 6-channel site. So that means that at any given time you can have 5 simultaneous conversations working on that Sturgis site, whereas this time last year that was limited to 3. And we did that essentially understanding that Sturgis PD is using the state radio system more. Obviously, the rally is a unique challenge every year. So we recognize the need for the increased capacity and justified that investment in increasing the capacity for the Sturgis Tower pretty quickly.
Okay. And this will eliminate smartphones.
Each piece of equipment the deputies have their own tasks, but again, just an example, I've been in a fight and lost my cell phone, but if it's attached to my wrist, I don't have an issue with it. I know it's still there. So a lot of those things have GPS as well. So each item has a tool.
These
radios don't have GPSs in them?
Our radios do.
So these radios are portable. They're not.
These would be the portable radios when the deputies exit their vehicle. They have attached their uniform.
They'll be on. Yeah, you said their wrists. So
that was something different.
Yeah, okay.
These are up here, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so this runs off a hotspot, and I think this question will be for Trent, I believe.
So the Apex N70 radios do not run off of a hotspot. They have an internal LTE SIM card in them. So they will seamlessly transfer between RF communications and LTE communications for your preferred service provider, whether that be AT&T FirstNet or Verizon. Those are the 2 choices currently approved by Motorola today.
You mentioned, Trent, that these will work where cell phones and the other analog radios do not. I don't understand your technical stuff, so if you could break that down, how does that happen without the hotspot? I guess I'm just confused. That's why I asked the question on the hotspot.
So these radios also have the ability to tether to a Wi-Fi network. So you can tether to a hotspot in a vehicle if you have one available. You can tether to a hotspot on another cell phone provider's plan. So, for example, when we were testing some of these new radios, we had both Verizon cell phones and we had an AT&T SIM card in the radio. So as we traveled, if we got out of AT&T service, it would seamlessly transfer to the Verizon hotspot, SSID, wireless hotspot on that Verizon phone. Or it would tether to a Wi-Fi hotspot in a building, which particularly helps for in-building coverage. So in your jails, in your public safety facilities, in your courthouses, in your schools, as long as you are using an SSID or a wireless network that is programmed into that radio, as you come and go from those locations, it will seamlessly tether between the RF infrastructure the Wi-Fi infrastructure and the LTE infrastructure.
Okay, so it's
you have to find some place where these radios don't work. Certainly, you can, but it's kind of leveraging the best of all the available communications technology into one device.
So essentially, it's constantly looking for either a Wi-Fi, a hotspot, whether it's Wi-Fi or a cell tower or analog tower. Is that correct?
That is correct. So,
okay.
And we can optimize the radios, so we can have the radio preference set to switch to a Wi-Fi network or an LTE network based on the received signal strength of the RF network. The one thing I would add too is that State Radio has offered that if Meade County, I understand this is a big investment, but if Meade County decides to take this step today and purchase these State Radio technicians, will help with the programming of the radios and the optimization to ensure that they do work as intended.
So the next question, probably for Sheriff West, are all the cars set up with hotspots? I don't necessarily understand the hotspot. I know, like, if I purchase it, I got to get extra. So do we have hotspots in the cars?
Yeah,
I'll let Ben answer that.
Okay.
They are set up with the, I can't think of the right name for the piece, but there's a piece in there that does provide that. That's how they're able to connect their computers when they're out in the field.
Okay, so they do have a hotspot within the car.
They
I probably should have known that.
They have Wi-Fi in the car.
Okay. So basically, the area that we're seeing is in that Piedmont area, Sheriff West, and that is the problem been. Is it the cell? We have cell coverage, but we can't get the analog towers. Is that the problem we see?
Well, there's a mix of both. There's different spots, but Somerset, Blackhawk, Piedmont all have their issues. And then there's quite a few locations throughout the county where you don't have cell service or radio. You probably rode horse in some of those locations. So, but the primary concern was that I-90 corridor, obviously, because that's where we are the busiest. Between here and Blackhawk, but there are occasions when we're out east and or southwest and have issues as well. So,
go ahead.
Oh no. Well, I just have a quick question, probably for Trent. You said those radios have SIM cards, so do you need to buy cell service for each of those radios then too?
5 years of service is included in the cost of the radio. So. Right now, the service cost for Smart Connect and the LTE service is $12 a month per radio. So I have asked Motorola, when they provided the quotes, to provide 5 years of service as well.
Mm. So then at the end of the 5 years, whatever the monthly cost for each SIM card would then fall back to the county?
Correct.
Pat, where are the majority of your calls for service?
I would say majority are the I-90 corridor. Yes, that would be safe to say. Also north of Rapid City as well.
What would be the delivery date for these?
Trent, do you have that? I know we have to order an invoice right away.
Yeah, so we'd have to order an invoice right away. They said that they could arrive as soon as a couple of months. I would tell you that I'm taking steps right now, working with Motorola to get some of these LTE Wi-Fi capable radios on a loaner basis, a cash use basis. They've offered 30 radios for the Sturgis rally, so we'll at least have some radios in hand for the Sturgis rally if these ones are not invoiced and delivered in time for Sturgis. That was ultimately the timeline that we would like to see them by, but if they couldn't be, like I said, I have worked with Motorola to secure 30 radios for a demo use for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Well, we had some radio issues during the last rally, didn't we?
That was with the digital system.
yeah.
Go ahead, Trent.
Yeah.
So for the first time ever, Sturgis PD joined the state radio network during the Sturgis Rally. And that was really an exercise to see what the capabilities of the assets that we had in place in Sturgis were. And then also to see what we needed to do to improve the coverage for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. In particularly, the rally presents unique challenges because it's a large group of people that come and go. So we really have to hyper-focus all the assets we can during the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and then they kind of go back to normal operating procedures. So normal operating procedures, the Sturgis Tower site has enough capacity to support Meade County and all the first responders in the area. And by increasing that capacity this year, I think we've increased it enough that we should see significant performance during this year's rally. Again, that's one big takeaway that we learned from last year's rally, and we've made significant investment and significant strides to correct that issue. The other thing I can tell you is that any of these Wi-Fi LTE radios, anytime that a site is busied out on the state radio side of things, then those radios will then be able to use the LTE or the Wi-Fi. We can also communicate with agencies like in Pennington County through the radios with the Wi-Fi or with the LTE that typically can't communicate on the RF system, because bringing over all that Pennington County, all that Rapid City traffic into the Sturgis area during the rally would actually create significant problems for the RF infrastructure as well. So it's multiple different benefits, I would say.
Brent, I have a question about, you mentioned this is an LTE service. Is it impacted with a 5G service, or are these upgradable to a 5G? So
my understanding is that they are 4G currently. I've asked Motorola when the 5G version of this radio is going to come up. I don't have any sort of insight to that. So as long as 4G is operational on the LTE infrastructure, these radios will continue to work.
And Pat, I think you mentioned in the last meeting, what's the full price if we don't act on supplying or purchasing today? The cost was $6,900. What's the cost after?
Yeah, the cost would be $11,000. I believe that's right, isn't it, Trent? $11,000.
I don't have the exact number right in front of me, but that's pretty much the range. Would be close to $11,000. The reason that we're able to offer the special pricing is that City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County has decided to order a bulk number of these. So anytime you order over 100 radios, you get you open up the doors to some special pricing. I went back to Motorola and I made the argument that a city of Sturgis or a county like Meade County could never leverage the benefit of a bulk radio purchase like that, just because we don't have a need for 100 radios in Meade County. And Motorola heard that conversation and heard that argument and said, okay, we're going to extend the promotional pricing to anybody in South Dakota that invoices and orders these radios before the 27th.
And as I understand it, this would negate a reason for putting another tower up in southern Meade County, which could cost in the millions. Is that correct?
Well, I think it certainly offers a different solution to a tower.
Any other questions, comments, and/or action?
Well, if these are 4G radios, and for say in the next couple of years something happens where you can only use 5G, are these upgradable to be able to do that, or are we looking at having to purchase new radios altogether?
I am not 100% sure on that, if they are upgradable to 5G or not.
When they made us go to digital, made us all buy new radios.
From everything that I know, we are making investments in these radios at State Radio. City of Sioux Falls is making investments in these radios, significant investments, because it is the best technology that is available right now. If there was a 5G radio right now that would get you another 5 or 7 years of service out of it, certainly that's what we would be advocating for. But you know, I'm not in the cellular industry. I think the foreseeable future for 4G LTE goes into the 2030s for sure.
Trent, you said that the plan was within the price. When that's for 5 years. So after 5 years, how much is that per year? Just the plan itself.
At current rates, it's $12 a month, so $144 per device per year.
Any other questions, comments?
Oh, just so I remember, Sheriff West, I think I asked this last time, was the current radios we have were bought 2 years ago?
Mr. Chairman? Yes, they were bought in 2022, just prior to me getting here.
Were those brand new technology at that time, or?
I do not know that, sir.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause we can talk all we want about life expectancy, but there's always a better bell or whistle, it seems. But and it's a difficult situation because our budget's not exactly flush. And you had priced, though, if you resold those radios, there is a market for those?
It would probably be with our own fire and ambulance, but we were guessing around $1,500 per radio. And I think they were purchased, they were $4,000. So $1,500 to $2,000 per radio. And realistically, we could get back around $24,000 or more.
I think we bought a whole slew of those things for like $330,000 for the fire departments when out of the COVID monies. I don't think you were here then.
Yeah, it was. That was a lower end radio. It was a Kenwood radio.
That was a lower end?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Oh, sheesh.
Okay, is there any other questions, comments? We do have several things on this agenda.
The one question I have is, we had that money we set aside for the roof. We set aside about $1 million, as I recall, from those funds. And this resolution has it coming from the general fund or the contingency fund. What would it take to take it out of the fund that we had set aside initially for the roof?
Well, it all comes out of the general fund.
Yeah, but we called that fund
assigned fund.
Assigned fund.
From my conversations and Rhea, as the auditor, if you'd correct me if I say something wrong, my conversations with the state auditor, those assigned funds have to be fairly specific and used for those purposes only. We can be fairly generic on it, except for it has to be within a department at least. Nope, your eyes went too far.
My understanding is that we have to assign those funds for a specific use at the time to show why we have an overage, but it can be realigned.
But we could say like facilities roofs is essentially what we did on some of them, or computers for a certain department. So it has to be at least that specific, is what I'm saying.
I don't believe that's true.
Okay.
Okay, well, so since
It can't be reassigned, though.
Yeah, I think you'd have to hold a full hearing to reassign funds out of it.
It's either way, we're having a, yeah.
Yeah, well, I personally, since we put $1 million for the roof, right, Rhea?
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, but we had $1 million for the roof, or we just
I thought we assigned,
we had city existing funds for
We had $500,000 for the LEC roof and $300,000 for the courthouse roof.
okay, so we had assigned 800,000. And I would like to reassign.
Well, I don't think we can reassign funds at this point.
Yeah, you can't have this hearing.
I would say you'd come out of contingency, and then if we have to do a supplemental hearing at the end of the year, then that's when it would
Well,
then take it out of that.
And we're all missing the point. It's all out of the general fund.
Well,
I know it's all out of the general.
Whether it's assigned and there's less coming out of that fund, it's just going to be the same amounts coming out of the general fund. And it's not within the assigned funds were also not within the budget. So it's not like it's helping or hurting the budget necessarily. So it's we got to have a hearing to move any money around, and that's what we're doing. It's just not coming out of the assigned funds this time.
I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying. We're saving some money.
Since we set the assigned funds separately, and since we got a tremendous bid on the roof.
You're doing what I used to do when I was 18. I saved money here, and so I'm going to...
I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul.
I understand.
And at the time, Pat came up last week with this unanticipated request.
I call it an opportunity.
Well,
an opportunity. When he came forward with this opportunity, I thought, my God, his timing is good. Did he know that those roof bids were coming in under?
So either way, our only decision for today is whether we want to move funds, and we're doing it properly. We called for the hearing, and the hearing is today, and so today is the day we can move funds or not.
Yeah, Doreen, I think it'd be simpler to assign or move the funds, but not deal with the assignments, because Al was okay with how we did the assignments, and it just seems like if we can cause him less stress, it's better for us.
But
I agree with your thoughts.
Your analogy is spot on. But your analogy is spot on, but I don't. It would make it very complicated, in my view, to do it that way.
Well,
could I get some action on this, or is there more questions?
I hate doing it, but it's needed. I will make the motion that we buy 16 of these latest and greatest radios, and we supplement the budget to do so.
Mr. Chair, I believe that Mr. Sheriff West said that the radios were $112,000.
Well, I guess what I would recommend instead of is setting the amount of either 112 or 120. There's obviously could be some taxes with it, so I think it would be wise for us to not say the amount of radios. I think it'd be more important to say the amount of money we're transferring. So I think the motion should state we're 120,000 or 112,000, whatever this commission's comfortable transferring, but. It could be 112. If there's taxes on top of that, it might be 120. It might be at the end of the day, you can only get...
We wouldn't be paying taxes.
Well, okay. Excuse me, there could be some other fees, but it might be at the end of the day, if we say 120, it may only be 15 radios because you can't afford that 16th one or something like that. But I think for the purpose of assigning or not assigning funds or in moving money for our budget, we have to state the amount is the most important thing.
Okay.
So
I hate to give you an extra 8,000, but our resolution says 120.
So if the motion could be to pass that resolution, that would be the simplest way of doing this. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Question, which fund would it come out of general fund or contingency?
I would prefer to do it out of contingency, and if we have to do a supplement at the end of the year, then we could do so.
So Doreen, that's for you.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion to that motion?
In addition, I would like us to find out exactly everything we need on all those towers and those repeaters and our licensing on all that other stuff. And I don't know if it's Tony, if it's Ben, whatever. Find out what budgets all that money's coming out of, because I do believe someplace along the line we can have some additional ongoing savings. It's kind of like an old landline that a lot of us had in our house that we just kept running all the time, even though we always used our cell phone until we eventually turned off the landline.
Do you have something in relationship to the motion?
Yes.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
believe that if we are going from contingency, this hearing actually or this resolution actually needs to be labeled a supplemental transfer, because the contingency is already budgeted. So we're just transferring from contingency to another fund.
So if it's okay with the motion to change that language,
Whatever the bean counters say.
any other discussion to the motion? Pass the resolution with those changes.
Could you repeat the motion?
The motion is to pass resolution 2025-30, which we'll include in our minutes.
20.
Excuse me, -20. With the changes to, it would say a budget transfer, Meade County General, or actually it's going to say a transfer from the contingency fund. It was highlighted in there. You'll just cross out general fund, is that correct?
And the title needs to say supplemental budget transfer.
Correct.
So essentially, we're passing this resolution. The motion would be passing this resolution, Chris, so that's essentially all you need for a motion. And this resolution will be included in the minutes if it passes. We haven't even got that far.
And if you don't spend 120.
Any more discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We have one dissenting vote. Commissioner Wright is right. Do we want to take a break, or do we want to hit the wilderness designation?
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going, Commissioner Creed. So you didn't get a chance to speak up. Wilderness bring us to G1. We'll take a break after this one. If you guys want to come forward, we got several guys. I think we three guys like to explain what's going on. And
Kevin, I brought you some reading material because you don't have enough.
Well, probably we got a lot on our agenda today. I'm going to try to keep this within 15 minutes work, guys. Maybe 10, and then some questions from us to cover that 15. So if you guys could introduce yourself. You guys have been working on this. I know I've been on a few calls with you guys, but not very many. So I appreciate you guys taking time and coming here today.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the County Commission. Kevin Forrester, I'm the representative for Meade County in the Forest Plan revision process. We've been going through this process for a few years now. It's been bogged down several times from staff changes and funding and different pieces, but some portions of it are proceeding, and there's opportunity for the Meade County Commission to weigh in on a issue that lingers for over 50 years within our county, or right at 50 years, and that's in the area behind the way station, the Beaver Park area. And the process with which the Forest Service is going through is ending up with a recommendation for wilderness designation of this, what was a 5,000 acre roadless area. Wilderness designation fits lots of properties with unique characters and special interests, but it sure doesn't look like this piece in Meade County that is adjacent to the I-90 corridor, is bookmarked on both ends with fire mitigation activities by the Forest Service, flanked by a great deal of private property, would be a candidate for not providing management of the forest resources, not controlling weeds, not doing those different pieces. Of note, just to mention, just yesterday, the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollings, announced that the Department of Agriculture is rescinding the 2001 roadless rule. So maybe there will be some changes that go through this. You know, this is all brand new. We don't know, but what's being told to the group is that the area is being considered for wilderness because of the roadless designation. So there's a cause and effect relationship there.
Yeah, can you open that image file?
I'll let everyone speak here, but the yellow is the proposed wilderness area. Seems interesting and unique that there's a bunch of flag type pieces of property on the southern end of it where there's area that's outside of the roadless area included, and but it definitely would have an impact to industry and recreation in the Meade County area. And with that, we've got a couple other members of the Forest Advisory Board.
Yeah, this is Mitch Iverson. I'm a consultant for the Black Hills counties, specifically hired to address the forest plan, which is a comprehensive plan similar to a county plan. The one thing I would like to point out is that this proposal is just a proposal at this point, but the fact that it was a roadless area makes it a high priority. And so it has in the past limited the tools for reducing fuels and all sorts of things. It could impact the Centennial Trail dramatically for, say, mountain bikes. The thing with all of this is when the Forest Service completes the EIS, and if this is carried forward, the Forest Service could start managing it right away as a wilderness area, just because it's been considered. So that's important to remember. I think what the county's response and the input from myself and others is that we think that's problematic in terms of managing the area properly. As you all know, there's large wildfires that have occurred in that general area. So the Forest Service has an online wilderness evaluation form. I can make this available, but Kevin's drafted up a really good response, and it all gets at the manageability of the area. There's a lot of history that's gone on, so I'm going to push this over to Bill Colburn, who has that expertise, and that's kind of where we're at. I do want to mention that the forest plan will probably be ramping up at around Christmas or after Christmas of this coming year. They'll start moving through it a lot faster if they follow their current plan. So you'll see a lot more about these type of issues. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bill Colburn.
It's off, I think, too.
My name is Bill Colburn. I'm a consulting forester, also a long-term member of the Lawrence County Natural Resource Committee. Have been involved in this process for quite a long time. And the big concern we've got, I think, for a lot of us is the fact that this Beaver Park area, I don't know if you've got a map. Do you have mine? So, that area is part of what they call the Sturgis fire shed, which was one of around 200 fire sheds that are of a high risk that were basically identified back in 2022 by the Forest Service. This area includes the Camara project, which was put together about 2.5-3 years ago to help address the fuels. But one of the areas that part of the Camara project that the wilderness or the wilderness area of Beaver Park was on the extreme east side of it. Having been in Beaver Park quite a few times, it's very heavily stocked for the most part, except for the area that was pretty much decimated by the mountain pine beetle in 1998 through 2000. That was about 600 acres on the south end of it. But there's roads in there, and I think the big issue that I see for a lot of us is the big risk of wildfire, and especially on the east side or on the west side of a lot of development along the I-90 corridor and just south of Sturgis. That's a huge concern. So I did have some maps here. I could kind of show you the risk associated with that, with the number of, there we go.
While Bill's working on that, I do want to mention that the deadline for comments on this area is July 11th. So that will be part of this, and I'll work with Kevin on this, this evaluation form and any supplemental documents. So that's the initial deadline.
July 11th. For some reason I had July 7th in my head. You're sure?
Yeah, it's 11th.
Okay.
For some reason my maps are not showing up. But these back in 22, the Forest Service launched what they call wildfire crisis strategy, and you know, you'd have to. I mean, we've had a lot of wildfires since then in the west, and so they established all these landscapes throughout the throughout the west. And so one of those landscapes was in the Black Hills, and they also identified this or fire shed that they're talking about. So basically what they're trying to do or proposing for wilderness goes contrary to what their actual strategy is in reducing wildfire risk, and especially severe wildfire. That's about all I've got. I just think that's probably the overriding concern by a lot of folks is it would be an area that could not be managed for any types of fuels treatments, which the surrounding areas at least have the opportunity to be managed.
So, thank you guys. Any questions from the commission? I do have Mr. Forrester drafted a letter, which I guess I'd like to take some action on, as far as sending this along with comments from official stance from Meade County. Any other questions, comments?
So essentially, that the wilderness proposal, that area, they would not do any mitigation for wildfires, right? I mean, it's just they're going to let it grow and then let it burn.
They would basically not allow much of anything except hiking, camping, but you, like you couldn't take a mountain bike through it or anything like that. Wilderness areas are typically done in large, high elevation mountain ranges where you can't drive a vehicle anyway, and they're usually much larger. So the issue of manageability is a very big concern in this area. It basically makes it off limits to do anything. They can grandfather in grazing if it's already occurring, but even that would be in jeopardy.
The issue of letting it burn probably it would not happen, just like they have in Black Elk. They are responding to fire in Black Elk, and they can give waivers on using mechanical means of suppressing fires, but it has to go clear to the top of the Forest Service to get that waiver. Pretty much, it would be trying to contain it within the area. Very difficult because of the fuel. Out of the 5,100 acres of Beaver Park roadless, I calculated almost 4,000 acres of it is high severity, high fire severity risk. Very heavily stocked stands of trees. It'd be very difficult to fight in the conditions.
One last closing point I'd like to bring up from working throughout several states and the Forest Service in the West. Search and rescue can be a big issue in wilderness areas. So if you get a lost hunter or someone hurt, you're very limited. They have to ask permission all the way up the chain of the Forest Service, and it can cause a significant delay. So that's one thing I think the county needs to be aware of.
I think I said last week, I can remember the late Governor Bill Janklow say, if there's a fire that ever breaks out in Beaver Park, Sturgis needs to run for their lives. And I guess I haven't changed my opinion. And when I see how it burns in the West, there's been some very bad decisions made in Washington.
Anyone in the audience have an interest in, I know there's a couple of ranchers that called me, but I didn't know if anyone's here. Any other questions, comments from the commission?
Yeah, my only comment was, I think they're spot on, and I mean, it seems screwy the way the flag pulling down to the south on this. It's close to a developing urban area. It's not that big of a parcel of ground. There's already trails through a lot of it. It seems to be an odd choice for this type of treatment.
One of the interesting things about it is, I don't know if you remember back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, basically through Dashiell there was some allowance of the ability to go in and treat the mountain pine beetle infestation at that time. It's about 600 acres. They weren't allowed to do any commercial use of the wood, but they were allowed to treat it. And it's one of the things that they say in recognizing wilderness is the area is untrammeled by man. Well, you can see this area from satellites, that the area they did end up treating. You've got roads in there, which coincidentally the Forest Service doesn't even have on their maps, that actually came out of that whole process. So this area doesn't meet none of the criteria that they've set when they did the Wilderness Act to create the wilderness. And they're trying to, this is the fourth time this has been done. It was looked at under rare in the early 70s. It was looked at rare 2 in 78. It was looked at in, under the Forest Plan revision of the 90s in 93. And now this is the fourth time they've evaluated this for wilderness designation. And at some point, somehow, you just got to say, enough is enough. This thing doesn't meet wilderness designation, and don't bring it up again.
Yeah, well, they probably will, but it's federal government. Yeah. I'll make a motion that authorize chair to execute the letter.
I'll second.
What was the motion, Commissioner Weiser?
Authorizing you to execute the proposed letter.
We got a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion to that motion?
Thank you, Kevin.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Iverson, Mr. Colburn, and Kevin. You've been representing us well on you're our representative for Forest Service issues. I appreciate it. You guys, I really appreciate you guys coming today. This is a huge topic. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, let's take a little break before we get to outside.
It was good to meet you. I've seen your comments by, in the papers on both of you, but I've never met you.
Thank you.
Great to meet you all.
Yeah. Thanks for allowing us to come.
Yeah. Kevin, it's a good thing you retired. So you got lots of time to do all these special freebie projects.
Brings us down to item H, which is outside agency funding requests, our favorite time of the year. I believe you all got a letter from our county exec stating that no more than 10 minutes. I think I'm gonna bring that down to 5 minutes to present to us. We've got, I don't know if everybody is here, but there's about 17 or 18 requests, so I'm gonna bring it down to 5 minutes apiece for presentation, and then open it up to Commissioner questions and comments. So we'll just start with first one on the list. Is someone from Black Hills Works here? Morning.
Here we are. Good morning. I'm Tammy Hopp. I am the Director of Philanthropy for the Black Hills Works Foundation, here representing Black Hills Works. And I will start with a thank you. Since 2021, the Meade County Commission has been offering donation in support of transportation to Ellsworth Air Force Base for our participants who are valued employees, mission-critical employees at the Ellsworth Air Force Base. So we're truly grateful. This partnership between Black Hills Works and Meade County goes back 44 years. In fact, Ellsworth Air Force Base is the first Air Force Base in the country to have employed a team of people with disabilities. And it's now there are thousands of individuals across the country at Air Force Bases doing important work. So that's a really terrific legacy, one to be very proud of. And again, truly grateful for the show of support that you've offered over the past several years. So we are here today to again ask for your support. We're asking for $1,000 to help with our transportation efforts getting to and from Ellsworth Air Force Base. We're all here today because we got in a car and drove ourselves, unless some of you were brave and got on a bike. But for the most part, transportation is really necessary to connect us with our lives, employment being a huge part of how we live our lives. I'm joined today with Monika. She is one of 54 people who are employed at Black Hills Works. And a point of correction in my letter, I dated you just a little bit. She's been with Raider Cafe since 2023, not 2013. Before that, she was employed at the commissary at Ellsworth Air Force Base and then at Family Fare before that. But she's been a valued employee now for many years out at Ellsworth Air Force Base and counts on transportation to get to and from work. At this time, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Monika just to tell us a little bit about how she spends her days when she goes to work. You work at Raider Cafe?
Yeah.
You want to tell us what a day looks like and what that job means to you?
It normally starts with getting there, transportation, waiting for a ride to get to and from work. Start off with cashiering, helping with dishes, stocking, sweeping, mopping, and goes on from there.
An employee of the quarter this month?
Yes.
Awesome. And what do you think about your boss?
Carl. He's great.
Yeah?
I've worked with him before, so it's good to work with him again.
Yeah, he's been there for, Monika reminded me of this, 40 years. Believe it or not, Carl Dixon has been overseeing the crew at the Raider Cafe, before that the Bandit, I think it was called, for 40 years. So almost our entire history out there at Ellsworth Air Force Base, and he is really, really loved by his employees. So now you because you have a job that you enjoy, you recently upgraded to an apartment all by yourself?
Yes.
So you live independently, and you otherwise enjoy the kind of life that comes with getting a paycheck. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And a lot of that, again, is transportation. It gets us to and from our jobs. And I, again, thank the Commission for recognizing the value in that, recognizing the value of employing people with disabilities, helping Monika and her peers live full and meaningful lives. So, is there anything else you wanted to share, Monika? Any questions from the Commission?
Don't have any questions? Well, good for you, Monika. You're doing a really good job, so thanks.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for coming in. There's no more questions. That's great. Great
That's awesome.
presentation. So thank you, Tammy, and thank you, Monika.
Thank you so much.
Brings us to Elk Creek Conservation Service. Hey, Connie.
Oh, there we go. So I'm here again to request money for the Elk Creek Conservation District. If you can see, we've had a very busy, productive year with our Rural School Day continues to be a big hit. We're going to expand into the urban area, but maybe not in the same type of program we offer in the rural because of the grades, the kids, the everything. So what our plan is right now is to do something maybe in the fall when our fall newsletter comes out and target a grade in these schools. And I'm looking at 4th or 5th grade. I'm not sure which one yet. I'd have to talk to the principals to see. And do packets that goes out with our newsletter and a tree order form to get our name more out there for these tree orders. Too. We only had one planting, major planting, I should say, through the contracts with the NRCS this year, but next year I think she said we're looking at 6 that way. So in order to reach that school day, I think our newsletter costs $1.35 to print and that, so we want to get, I don't know how many children are in the 4th or 5th grade. I'm guessing maybe 250. It's just a guess. I'd have to find out that way. And then there's some materials to go in with it to promote this then. Our tree planter is being patched together. It's old. It was used, I think, when we bought it, and I don't even know when we bought it. It was there before Eddie Grubel came on the board, and he came on in 1989. So it was used then. So we're working with it and able to get it patched up and going. The cooler is in good shape, thanks to some of my husband and a couple of the other supervisors went and worked and shored the inside of the cooler up, and the school district put a new door on it, and that has helped tremendously with the temperature to regulate that cooler during the tree season. So we're doing pretty good that way, that we haven't had to call Al Cornella several times this year. So anyway,
any questions?
Yeah, what do you guys, so we gave you $15,000 last year. What did that do for the conservation district? What did that do for the county?
We reach the newsletter, like I said, when we do get sponsors for our newsletter too that help with our cost of the mailing with it. We have an employee that we pay in cooperation with Butte and Lawrence County. She does 3 counties, and so we're in cooperation with them. We're also in the Belfouche watershed with Butte and Lawrence counties too, to maintain that. Our other ones are it's on the expenses that we've had, the awards, the recognition, the tree stock, the mileage, the dues that we pay every year into the conservation district, statewide, and that, and the upkeep of everything.
So I like that you guys have upcoming NRCS contracts. That's something that really doesn't seem like it's covered a lot in the presentation, so I think that's an important piece. So, having more of those next year is helpful for everybody.
Yes, it varies. You know, we, like the one year, some of you remember, we had an employee and didn't order the trees, and so we had no contracts, and we made up for it 2 years ago then, and then so this year, then there was only the one contract. I think there was a couple that backed out that didn't have their stuff completed, but now we're back up to 6 for next year then.
Any other questions?
We work in conjunction also with the Forest Service, the Game Fish and Parks, the Bird Conservancy, Fish and Wildlife, to name a few.
I have several partners. I go to quite a few of the meetings.
Yes. It's always good to have you there.
Liaison for this group, and I go to most of the meetings. Any other questions for Connie? I appreciate you coming in, Connie.
Thank you very much for your time. Oh, it wasn't intended. And your file
Let's
that
move
was not
down.
intended either.
Let's move down to H4, Faith Ambulance.
Morning. I am here to request
Could you say your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chris Escott. I'm the director of the Faith and Inning Ambulance.
Thanks, Chris.
And I'm just here to ask for some additional funding or some funding to help with our operating expense. A couple of years ago, we took Inning Ambulance on as a satellite station. And so between Faith and Inning, we cover a very large portion of Meade County. And additional funding helps. As you know, ambulance services are at a critical point right now. And it would be a large gap if we get a little bit of funding from Perkins County and we get some from Ziebach County.
Yes, this is certainly a big area that you guys cover, and I know it's right out in the heart of my area, so that we certainly appreciate all you guys, you and Enning, really should be called Faith and Enning, probably, this request, which covers most of the county, really. So, is there any questions from Ms. Escott?
What do you get from the other counties?
I believe $2,500 for Perkins.
Has there been any discussion about ambulance district or?
We have visited that before, and it's not a good fit up there because the largest portion of the tax district would come from the ranchers, and they're the ones that use ambulance services. So it's just not. It wasn't well received.
So is most of your calls like highway accident type stuff?
It's a majority. It's just a mix. During the summer we get more highway accidents, people passing through. We get a few motorcycle accidents through, the rally. We get ranch, like branding stuff in the spring maybe. It's never really the same, different.
How many calls a year do you guys get? And it might be in there.
Between Faith and Inning, we're around between 250 and 275.
I know I'm paged for every fire department in the county, and you guys are included, and it seems like you guys are going off all the time.
We cover Inning does, I should say, covers a lot of the the New Underwood Road. Down like Elm Springs and then up to Mud, and then up into Opal, Red Owl, all that area.
Any other questions for Ms. Escott? Well, thank you, Chris, for coming in today, and like I said, I sure appreciate what you guys do out there.
Thank you.
H5, Good Shepherd Clinic.
Good morning. I'm Chris Davis. I'm the Executive Director for Good Shepherd Clinic in Spearfish and Lead. want to thank you for the opportunity to present again. We are continuing opening our doors since 2009 in Spearfish. And as of last year, at about this time, I had mentioned in my letter that we were hoping to open up a clinic in Meade, which we did do. We opened up in September 2024 up in Meade. We're at Shepherd of the Hills Lutheran Church, providing medical services twice a month up there, and are scheduled currently through August of 2025, but have received approval from the church to continue another year. So that's nice that we're able to offer folks a chance to be either in Spearfish or up in Meade, depending on where they live, when they need some medical care. And anybody that we do serve up in Meade is always welcome to come down to Spearfish, because dental is the only place that we're providing that is down in Spearfish. Some of the other changes that we have made since last year is we have now added County Drug as one of our pharmacies partners. So we now have 7 pharmacy partners between Spearfish, Bell, Sturgis, Meade, and Deadwood. So opening up more opportunities for folks where they need to get their medications. And Dr. Hedinger continues to see individuals. He has now started rotating through as a rotating Monday night dentist, seeing individuals. We can refer our patients to him. But what's nice is he also continues to serve individuals that have Medicaid. Good Shepherd Clinic is not able to serve Medicaid patients, but we can refer people to Dr. Hedinger for their services. The other extension that we have made this year, which started in February and we're still working on rolling that out, is up until February of 2025, we have only seen uninsured individuals. Well, with changes going on in insurance and different situations, we have added underinsured folks. So maybe they have a very high deductible and they don't want to get into that insurance game, or their insurance plan doesn't cover enough of what they need. So we are extending to underinsured folks. We are still working with 200% federal poverty level. So for an individual of one, that's a monthly income of $2,608, or only just over $31,000 for a year. For a family of 2, it's a little over $3,500 for a month. And then the prices keep increasing. And every February, those numbers are adjusted based on what the government levels are. I have requested a funding of $1,000, and that will cover a number of prescriptions, or it will cover 1 denture plate, or it could cover 6 extractions, tooth extractions for individuals. So that's how we are using the money that we are able to receive. So any questions at all?
You get funding from any other government, local governments?
City of Meade, Spearfish, Lawrence County. So yes.
Give how much?
Depending on the location, $1,000 to $2,500.
Any other questions for Ms. Davis? Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Let's move down to H6, Meade County Fair Board. One here from the Fair Board. I'll move down to Meade County Firefighters.
Good morning. Scott Lunzergrove with the Meade County Firefighters Association. I'm the president. We're requesting a $20,000 budget for this year. We've been doing a lot of work this year with a lot of you, with doing some fire burn bans and stuff like that, and I think they've been very beneficial. The money that we're requesting goes for replacement of apparatus, hoses, PPE, you name it. If it says fire with it, you know how expensive it gets. It's like 5 times the amount of what it would be for a normal pair of clothing. So, as you can see, we've already got 3 budget requests in for this year from the Meade County firefighters. Enning is building a new water tender. Hereford needs a new radio for their brush truck, and we've ordered 2 pallets of foam to help with the fire suppression already. And, you know, already pushing over 10,000 this year, and we're just getting into fire. It looks green out there. if you're haying, as soon as you cut the green, it's brown, it's dry. We've had 4 lightning strike fires already this year. We've already had multiple starts with haying equipment. So fire season's just starting to kick off, and then hopefully the prices won't go with it, and hopefully people don't break their stuff. Money's used to replace everything. So deal with, as you know, multiple fire departments throughout the county, all the way from Faith to Sturgis, Meade, Blackhawk, Annie, Hereford, Opal. A lot of people out there with a lot of pieces of equipment.
Any questions for Mr. Linsgraf? And yeah, I work with Scott quite a bit, so does Doreen. We'll just communicating throughout the year, and when to, we appreciate the communication with when to place those burn bans and come back. I do want to note, a lot of times this shows up in our budget as $40,000, and it's what the funding has been going to $20,000 toward the fire department, but the other 20 is budgeted for workman's comp. The county pays for the workman's comp for the firefighters, as well as Faith and any ambulance that comes out of that 20,000. Ambulance is somewhat significantly smaller, but the firefighters is the lion's share of it. So 20,000 goes to just the workman's comp piece of that, and 20 goes to, like you mentioned, the fixing stuff or helping local fire departments. I think quite a few years ago, Doreen, you guys used to fund fire departments separately. They'd come in, and we just started going this route, and you guys as a board come and see who needs it the most. So, any questions for Mr. Linsgraf?
What kind of radio are you replacing?
We'll be putting a new Motorola mobile in their brush truck. I heard the question come up earlier. When we did buy all new radios for the fire departments throughout the Meade County, we went with Motorola.
And they're the P25s, right?
P25 compliant radios, yeah.
Are you guys still short on radios?
Right now, we're getting to that point where we're pretty good across the board, and that's why it's nice to have been building up our budget a little bit. That way, when we do have an emergency like this, we're able to take care of stuff. But as far as like the LTE stuff, the fire department never able to go to that. For myself, I have 40-some radios. I know Annie's got like 75 members there, and if you take a subscription for all that stuff, that'd be a lot of money. Right? They wouldn't be able to afford.
Well, it sounds like we may have some portables for sale.
I was just thinking we might have 16 of them coming up for sales.
Yeah, we might be able to do something with that. So,
any other questions for Mr. Linsgraf? Thanks, Scott, for coming in today.
Yep, thank you.
Let's move down to H8, Meade County Senior Center. One here from the Senior Center. Okay, let's move down to...
I was curious.
Okay, let's move down, be something to look into. Let's move down to Northern Hills Alcohol and Drug Services, Compass Point.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. My name is Hillary Schwab, and I'm the Executive Director of Compass Point here in Sturgis and Spearfish. And I am here today to request $10,000 from the county for the purposes of upgrading our medical equipment and some supplies for our inpatient building. And before I go into more of that, I just kind of want to brief you on a little bit about what Compass Point does here in the community and some of the services that we offer. So, as you know, we are a drug and alcohol treatment center. We do have an outpatient building here in Sturgis, and we are also the home of the only medically monitored intensive inpatient facility in western South Dakota. So what that means is we are medically monitored to treat individuals who struggle with substance use at the highest level of care. And then we have levels of care that drop down after that, which is more in the outpatient setting. And we offer a variety of groups, individual counseling. We have some gender-specific groups focused on trauma, co-occurring disorders. We also help individuals, family members, spouses, everyone involved in the cycle of addiction. So going back to our inpatient facility, we are medically monitored. And what that means is we do have a full-time nurse on site. And we also are required by the state to have an acting medical director. And our medical director is a medical doctor out of Monument Health. But he, of course, isn't right on site with us. So that leaves our staff to deal with a lot of medical emergencies, potential medical emergencies, things related to detox and withdrawal. So some of the things that we are in need of are things like medical supplies. And just to be more specific, it is upgrading our blood pressure cuffs, thermometers, pulse oximeters, assisting with some client medications as well, and also some AEDs. I know that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we have something tragic happen on site, and I think it would offer us a lot of security to have a couple of those AEDs on site, and those can cost up to about $2,000 a piece. We're in need of blood glucose monitors and some kind of electronic communication system for emergencies so we can get the appropriate staff where they need to be. In addition to that, it would be things like PBT machines, and then to help offset the cost of additional staffing for some of our clients who come in with a lot of medical issues.
Clients come from? Do they come from the area jails, or are they family members or self-check-ins? And I can't remember where they come from.
I would say the highest percentage of our admissions do come from the legal system, or they're court-ordered to go to treatment. That seems to be the trend in the last few years. Very, very few walk-ins. I would say that would be the least amount, considering the population being served. So it's a lot of criminogenic clients, I would say.
But they have to be kind of stabilized before you take them.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
they cannot be going through DTs and all that at the time.
I mean, they do come in going through DTs and withdrawals, and sometimes we don't know that right away because they're coming in under the influence, and so we don't see that until a few days after they're admitted. And so we really have to watch that closely. And if we can't manage that, we end up sending them to detox in Rapid City, which is probably the appropriate care that they need. However, we usually lose them in the process because they do not return.
Right.
Any other questions for Ms. Schwab?
So your request is $10,000 from the county and then $60,000 from the opioid fund.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if we want to ever come back for that.
Yeah, if you'd, I think if you'd want to include that discussion in here, that'd be fine.
Yeah, definitely. And I do want to just say also that our inpatient agency serves approximately 100 clients per year. And this last year, there was approximately 35 Meade County residents out of that 100. Okay, and then moving on to the opioid fund request. So I did include a letter, and if you wouldn't mind, I would just like to read the paragraph that I wrote regarding some of our new programming, because the funds that I'm requesting would go specifically to a new partnership that we just established, and so I'll just read a little bit about that, and I will read a little bit about that and then piggyback with some other things. So our new specialized programming is targeted specific to opioid use disorder or clients who have that diagnosis. And this is determined by an evaluation and the clinician's recommendations. Compass Point has aimed toward consistent engagement and a creative solution for clients struggling with addiction that will have a transformational impact on the community. This new addition to our programming is a breakthrough in addressing a community need that is more effective, equitable, and sustainable compared to previous approaches. This breakthrough and creative solution, which achieved community innovation, is the launch of our new wellness division. Our specifically designed wellness curriculum, called The Comeback, My Ongoing Recovery Experience, weaves together components such as spirituality, physical fitness, finding your worth and value, mindset shifting, nutrition, and personalized coaching. In order to bring this wellness division to life, Compass Point partnered with the owners of Flex Fitness and Sturgis CrossFit, and we collaboratively went to the drawing board. Together, we included coaches from their work coaching program who are dedicating and offering their individual expertise in the areas mentioned above to every client who walks through the door. Compass Point clients now have the opportunity to treat their addiction holistically and comprehensively. Not to mention, they are able to individualize their own treatment plan, bringing to the table most things that typically are not brought to light in traditional treatment settings. This program is groundbreaking for South Dakota, as we are one of the only treatment centers in the state who is offering something like this. Our clients now have 24/7 access to a fitness center, a CrossFit gym, a sauna, a cold plunge tub, and a group of certified coaches and alternative ways to heal from the grips of addiction, all at no cost to them. Compass Point and Flex Fitness have the same mission and vision for the community. That mission is to allow individuals to fully recover, put families back together, and keep the community safe by increasing public safety. Because of the launch of this program and the short time it has been operating, 13 individuals have committed to a long-lasting recovery and have turned their life around. And so just piggybacking off of that a little bit, I think with the addition of a wellness program and going outside of the box of traditional classroom setting treatment, we're really seeing change. Exercise is known to disrupt the craving cycle. It diverts attention away from triggers, increases emotional resilience, and provides alternative source of dopamine in the brain. And with this being said, we are heavily leaning on community support by helping clients not be stigmatized and giving them a resource that they could never afford on their own.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Ms. Schwab? Real good. Thank you for your time today, Ms. Schwab. Northern Hills CASA.
Good morning. I'm Amy Cermak, Executive Director of Northern Hills CASA. I'm here today with a CASA volunteer, Luke May, who's going to share a few of his experiences as a volunteer. Child maltreatment is a reality and exists right here in our local communities, with our largest caseloads originating in Meade County. Northern Hills CASA has been promoting and protecting the best interests of abused and neglected children since 1986. CASAs are powerful voices as judges rely on their input when making decisions regarding a child's future. These volunteers are ordinary people who do extraordinary things for children. We have been fortunate year after year to accomplish our vision of having a CASA volunteer assigned to every abused and neglected child. We help them maneuver through tumultuous times. Our team is currently supporting an active pool of 65 advocates, 16 of which are from Meade County. In 2024, 34 volunteers devoted their time serving 77 children and their families. 52% of these children were from this county. The annual cost of one CASA volunteer to an organization is $4,341. In the first 6 months of 2025, we've had 14 advocates walking alongside vulnerable children in this county, which equates to a financial burden to our program of over $60,000. Our grant request would help offset expenditures for 5 volunteers serving children in this community. As a nonprofit organization, we are led by an amazing board of directors, with 30% of our board residing in the county of Meade. We receive funding through a variety of sources. Unfortunately, federal grants have decreased significantly, as our allocation in 25 was $60,000 less than in 2024. The future of federal funding is unknown. In April, federal funding for the National CASA Association was terminated by the current administration. Consequently, National CASA has suspended all services and support to state and local programs. With regard to county funding, grants continue to be allocated from 6 of the 8 counties we serve. We have not received financial assistance from Meade County since 2010, despite the annual requests. We are often asked during presentations to civic groups in Sturgis why Meade County has ceased funding for us, but I'm unsure of the answer. Our mission goes well beyond advocacy. We're dedicated to engaging our community by raising public awareness about child maltreatment and our mission, and inspiring people to take action. I'm thrilled to introduce a champion for children, Casa Luke May.
Turn your mic on. My name's Luke May, and I've been a CASA volunteer for 6 years. 4 of the 6 children I've advocated for are from Sturgis. I see myself as a crucial advocate for these children that they're facing really unimaginable challenges. It's unbelievable what some of these kids have to go through. And I see myself as a voice for them. I'm their voice in courtrooms and conference rooms. I'm also a positive adult in their life. I show up for everything. I get to have some fun with them, and I advocate for them through just persistent positive pressure on their behalf, because they can't advocate for themselves. I've had some of these cases are very interesting, and it's hard to know what case to talk about. But one fun one I had was young man he was 6 years old. From Sturgis. His mom didn't have the mental capacity to keep him safe, and in fact, she put him in harm's way. And so he and I were out on some adventures, and he was talking about how much he loved cars, and a Dodge Challenger was his favorite car. And I run some car dealerships, so on our next visit, we went into the dealer. I grabbed a plate and keys, and we took off in a Dodge Challenger, and he just, he high-fived me with the enthusiasm of a 6-year-old who's had his dream realized, but I think also, a boy who felt seen and heard, which were not things that he had been feeling. My current case, I've got 3 siblings from Sturgis. The 2 sisters have been adopted, including an adoption here in Sturgis. And man just turned 18, and he has had 23 placements in the 5 years that he's been in custody of VSS. I've visited him in McCrossin, in Sioux Falls. I've been to Pierre, to Hughes County. He's been placed all over the state. He's from Sturgis. He's been placed all over the state, and I go wherever he goes and take care of his needs and advocate for him. It's hard work. It is really hard work. I enjoy it. I enjoy kids. Feel like the support for these children can change the future. I mean, we can change the world because we decided to put these kids as a priority, and appreciate you considering that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the Commission? Thank you for your time today, Mr. Meck, and it's very admirable what you do, Mr. May. We thank you that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move down to 11, Piedmont Valley Library. Anyone here from the Piedmont Valley Library?
Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Beth Soyland. I'm on the board of the Piedmont Valley Library, and I'm happy to be here and talk about our great space. Megan, our outstanding director, has shared some information with all of you, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the numbers from 2024. Our little Piedmont Library saw over 17,000 in-person patrons last year, and we circulated almost 42,000 physical and digital items. We had over 2,800 people attend our programs, and we loaned over 2,000 items to other libraries, and we borrowed 2,600 items from other libraries. We also had over 3,500 Wi-Fi sessions in our library. We have 38 volunteers who worked over 2,100 hours for our library last year, and we could not do what we do without them. We have paid staff of 3, and these 3 women go above and beyond every day. It is the passion and enthusiasm of that staff that's at the heart of what our library does, and our community really benefits from that. We had a lot of growth in 2024, and that continues into 2025. I don't think I can overstate the value of libraries, and I truly believe that ours is really special. We are very grateful for the funding that Meade County has given us in the past, and we are requesting an additional $2,000, which would be a total of $18,000 to meet the increasing needs of our patrons and cover rising costs of supplies and materials. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. Any questions, comments from the commission? Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you.
That brings us Sturgis Economic Development Corporation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Amanda Anglin, Executive Director of the Sturgis Economic Development Corporation. Our request today is to help with our operational expenses for our organization, and we do what we're doing is expanding, recruiting, and growing business in Sturgis, Somerset, and throughout Meade County. The funding request also will help to cover the salaries for myself as well as our economic development coordinator. We do a lot of marketing efforts, lead generation, and business retention across the region. So I think everyone's aware that in last year we added an employee, our economic development coordinator, and we did that in partnership with the city of Somerset. So that partnership has allowed us to really expand our efforts to be available for businesses in Meade County and throughout the communities. Brenna's primary role is to visit with all of the businesses in our area and then help them with whatever challenges or exciting things that are happening with them. In 2024, she was able to right away make contact with all of the businesses in the city of Somerset, which they have 58, or in 2024 they had 58 registered businesses. And then she conducted 14 business retention and expansion visits. And so those are our opportunity to get in and talk to the businesses and find out what they're doing and where we could potentially provide help if they need assistance with anything. In addition to that, that position is also helping with business prospects throughout Somerset, Sturgis, and Meade County. She also provides regular updates to the City Commission, and then she's been doing a really good job with collaborating with developers in that area. There's land available along Sturgis Road within Somerset that is prime for development, and one of her goals was to just get together with the developers in the area to see what kind of things could be possible for that community. In Sturgis, we continue to market our industrial park. As you know, last year we built a brand new building, and that construction was completed. We now have it full. There are 2 existing businesses that are leasing from us in that building, and then we had 2 new businesses join us here earlier this year, an equipment company, a rental equipment company, and a commercial door company. So I'm really excited that we were able to fill that building and fill the need. We built that building because the businesses in our area needed some leased space, and now it's full, and now we're back to having the same challenge where we don't really have any available space. But so it's a good thing, but it's also a challenge for us. So far in 2025, I just want to highlight a couple of projects that we've worked on. We assisted with our revolving loan funds. We've assisted Beljo Lee with an expansion for their business, and then also there is a business in Faith that is moving to Union Center. It's a young gal who has a salon, and we helped her with a loan so she could relocate her business. And her grand opening is coming up in July, so if anyone's available to maybe visit with her about her grand opening, it's on Facebook. It's Sagebrush Salon, but we were able to help her with a loan when she first started her salon in Faith, and then now with her moving it to Union Center, we were able to help her again. So she's taking an old schoolhouse and converting it into a salon, so it's a really cool thing for the Union Center area. We're also continuing our efforts to develop the Exit 32 property, which is next to the Scooptown Car Wash. We do have some interest in that property, and so we're continuing to pursue some opportunities there. I can talk for a long, long time about all the things that we're doing. But those are the things that I really wanted to highlight. Unfortunately, Brenna had to go to a meeting at noon, so she had to skip out a little bit early. But we're also helping the city of Somerset. They're looking at acquiring some land that can then help us further business growth in that area as well. So thank you all for all of your efforts with economic development and helping us do what we do in Meade County. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I thought she was leaving and you were looking for a new assistant.
She is. Her and her family are, they have a family business, so they're expanding that. So we are looking to replace her. She's going to stay on with us until I can find a replacement.
Okay.
And yeah, so we've got some time there, and I've had quite a lot of applicants for the position. So I'm hoping it's not as difficult as I anticipated it to be. But yeah, we're hoping for a smooth transition, and we'll continue to do the work that we're doing throughout the county.
Any questions? It's you guys, yeah, you do a lot. I sit on this board representing the county, and along with Rhea. And yeah, it's a lot of stuff you guys do. So
thank you.
Appreciate your time today, Amanda. Let's move down to 13, Sturgis Public Library.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Hahn. I'm the director of the Sturgis Public Library. And, we're grateful for all the funding that we get from you guys, as is Piedmont, definitely. We both serve all of Meade County through, physical and digital materials. About 35% of our patrons are county residents, and that's about 3,000 patrons right now. We've had a number of growth in the past few years, which has been great. We've been dealing with, of course, our budget cuts by cutting back on some of our services, but we've kept our digital materials, our books, and our programming are our main focus right now, and always have been. And so we're working on that and try to keep that going. We've had, all of our stats are on the stuff I gave you, but, we had a number of county residents especially are checking out our hotspots to use. For example, if they don't have good internet or any internet at all. We had 485 of those go out, checked out 485 times last year. We've had to cut back on that because of budget cuts, and so now we're to the point where instead of always having one or two ready to go, quite often we're out. And so we're hoping to get a little more money for that for next year to keep that going. we had about 27,000, almost 28,000 digital checkouts through the year. I tried to break that down into in-county and out-of-county, but the service that we use doesn't let me quite do that. I do know that of our physical checkouts, about 51% of our checkouts came from people who live outside of Sturgis. So that's pretty amazing, and we're happy to have them and happy to help. I guess libraries are going through a little bit of a tough time. We had the state library issue that got resolved somewhat. We were going to lose our courier money from the federal level, but that has been returned for a year. Although whether that continues is going to be up to Congress here pretty soon, whether they want to continue that or not. That's a big part of all of our libraries' roles, is getting materials that people want that we don't have. And with smaller libraries in this area, we rely on that quite a bit. So we're grateful to have that. Our programming continues to grow. We've been adding storytime sessions because we've just got too many people showing up, which is great. The number of ranch families that come in and check out 60 books and at a time is also great to see. I guess, do you guys have any questions for me about the library?
Questions for Mr. Hahn?
How'd you make the determination on your percentage for county people?
With our patrons, we group them into quadrants. So we have people that live inside the city, and then we have some different county quadrants. And so we can easily look at the number of people that are outside the city limits.
So do county people pay anything for use of the Sturgis Library?
No, nobody in Meade County pays to use the library.
Remind me what Rapid City is now charging to use the library, because I know I had a daughter show up there the other day and said, Mom, I can't check a book out.
Yeah, Rapid City charges $120 a year for out of county. So anybody that lives outside of Pennington County, if they want to use Rapid, it's $120 a year. We charge $25 for out of county cards or for temporary cards, which are good for a few months. We had reciprocity with Rapid City. There was a disagreement about the service area, and so that was dissolved.
So now if you have a Sturgis address, you can check out of the Rapid City Library?
No, not anymore.
Oh.
You could.
You could.
Okay.
Used to have reciprocity. Okay.
But they started excluding parts of Meade County from the reciprocity agreement. So that's no longer in effect.
Any more questions for Mr. Hahn? Well, thank you for your time today, and
thank you.
You guys are doing a good job over there. Brings us to Three Rivers Mental Health and Chemical Dependency Center.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Mickey Haynes, and I'm a mental health therapist for Three Rivers Mental Health and Chemical Dependency Center. Our main office is actually out of Lemon in Perkins County, and the way the state has divided it up, Three Rivers serves Dewey, Ziebach, Corson, and Perkins, and West River Mental Health out of Rapid City has Meade County area. Well, Faith has been underserved, and we have been serving. I've been at Three Rivers for 20 years, and I've been going to Faith for 20 years, serving those with mental illness. And so we meet with children, adults, as well as families. We don't turn anyone away based on income. We also have crisis management where we're on call. Someone's always on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Work at times with either the City of Faith or with Meade County Sheriff's Office when there's a crisis. Maybe somebody's suicidal, they will contact us, and
either a petition is filed or maybe a petition hasn't been filed, but they would like us to just meet with the individual first to see if a petition needs to be filed with that individual. So things have definitely changed over the last 20 years. When I was first coming to the faith area, it wasn't nearly as busy as what it is now. There doesn't seem to be the stigma with mental health and receiving services as it was in the past. I have clients in the Union Center area, Red Owl area, Marine area, Faith area that all travel to Faith to meet with me. So we're requesting some funding from you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Haynes? Thank you for your time today.
All right. Thank you, guys.
The drive you guys made to come down here.
Yeah.
Brings us up to Tri-County Conservation District.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Schilke, and I'm the district manager for Tri-County Conservation District in Faith. I want to again thank you guys for your continued support with funding. Without it, especially this year, we probably won't be able to keep our doors open much longer. I'm hoping next year, since it started out with lots of rain and stuff, there'll be more and more business all the time, but it is a crucial time for everybody. But I can't stress enough, the younger people need to plant trees because they are the ones that are going to enjoy them, and their grandkids and so forth. And a lot of people say, when I should have planted a tree, it was 20 years ago. So the older people that are doing it now, they're doing it for their grandkids because they said their kids aren't even going to get to hardly enjoy it. And it is just, it's a crucial thing, and it helps with the different programs. Next year, it's looking like we should have possibly 3 to 4 NRCS program or plots, so that'll be great. And hopefully we can get some grant funding too, but it's a tough time of year. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. Schilke?
Amy, what have you guys helped for in the county for this year or last year? What things would you say the $10,000? Did we give you $10,000?
Yes.
What did that provide for the county?
It's helped with supplies, basic fuel, because we travel a long ways. Meade County, as you know, is a huge county.
Right.
And so we cover a huge area. A lot of our plots are 100 and some miles round trip.
How many different ranches did you plant at in Meade
County? We did 4 this year.
And how many trees was that at each one, roughly?
We planted 2,458 trees. And we added, we actually did one that was in between Meade and Butte County. We planted for a gentleman this year.
And then how much do they pay to get that? How much do they pay for all their trees you planted?
Oh, like
what is their cost share?
Well, their cost, if it's not on a program, it's all out of their pocket. So they pay for the machine planting the trees, and then we added mileage to help because our equipment is extremely old. And unlike other districts, we supply the tractor where a lot of other districts do not. So we have a pickup and a flatbed and an old tractor that we haul. So they don't get the best gas mileage.
So I mean, in the end, out of those 4, how much did it cost them? A couple thousand, 5,000,
it
100?
just varies how big of a plot it is. It varies on how many trees. It varies on how much fabric.
Yeah, I know. So what was the lowest and what was the highest?
One of the lowest would be probably about $350, something like that. It was just a small plot. He had one, and then he had another plot he wanted to do, because we try to specify that you want to do like at least 150 trees, so it's worth our time.
So it costs about 350 to put in 150 trees.
Well, the trees are.
I know they're really little.
No. I guess I don't understand what you're saying. You're wanting to know what a plot is?
No, I'm wondering, you said you planted in 4 Meade County locations.
Yep. Actually, it was 5.
Okay, 5. I'm asking how much it costs the landowners.
Oh, the landowners?
To do this.
Because one gentleman was close to $8,000 because he had 900 trees and 9,000 feet of fabric.
Okay, that's exactly the kind of.
But some of the other ones are a little harder to remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Like one was 8, and then one was just 350.
Mm-hmm. It kind of
And
varies.
so I assume the others would have been like a couple thousand, probably.
Some of them are generally, yes. And then a lot of them are in between like the 5 to 7 or,
5 to 7,000?
No, 100.
Okay.
Yeah. No, if it was 5 to 7, it would be,
okay.
I would be sitting a lot better.
Okay.
So
what I'm trying to come up with is how much of the total cost is the county supplementing the planting?
The majority I do is in Meade County. I go from anywhere from Opal. I've been on the New Underwood cut across. I've done Union Center, Red Owl. I mean,
Okay. So, how many other areas did you plant this year?
I did one in Butte County.
And then, do you also sell trees? Like I know, okay. Yes. And then people just take them and they plant them themselves.
They can, yes.
About how many trees did you sell this year?
Total with everything was 6,262. It was definitely down.
Any more questions for Ms. Schulke?
Sorry, I misunderstood you earlier.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not very good sometimes at explaining myself.
Well, thank you, Ms. Schulke, for coming in today, and you had quite a drive as well. Yeah. So, brings us to Western Dakota Regional Water System.
You'd think I would have known that. Yeah. I spent a decade in Pierre, representing District 32, which is down in Rapid City. So I know what a job that you have here, a job that isn't just encompassed in this room. It encompasses the rest of all of your life. So thank you for your service. My name is Kristen Conzett, and I am with Western Dakota Regional Water System. What Western Dakota Regional Water System is asking for is a $7,500 partnership with us for Meade County to be a supporting partner in the endeavor that we are looking at. And what is that endeavor? There are two sides to this tale. One is to bring clean, reliable drinking water to western South Dakota from the Missouri River. We did receive ARPA money, and that money smartly has been invested by Western Dakota into the engineering component of what has to happen to make that 160-mile water main at a 2,000-foot lift. But what Western Dakota did smartly was take the money, the support from the federal government that was funneled through the state, and they invested it in, the need was already made. The School of Mines did a study, and it showed that we are in the possibility, if there is, well, we're in a drought stage now. It's been 33 weeks. But if we don't address it now, much like the previous speaker, when they're talking about we need to plant the tree now. We need to put the seedling in now. And for those of you that have heard of us, that is what we're attempting to do. We're in our 5th year. So we are going through the schematics with our engineering team about bringing clean, reliable drinking water, or clean, reliable water from the Missouri River to western South Dakota. What we've done for the last few years, 5 years, is our engineering team has gone throughout the Black Hills and western South Dakota, but primarily with what we call the Rapid City, Northern Hills metro areas is kind of what we're calling it, to make the case. And in order to make the case, it was imperative that we get a third party. So we engaged USGS to update going through the aquifers, and this is all in the presentation. I know I'm talking fast. I don't want to abuse the time. To make the case of recharge and yep, there you go. And we can stop. There, right there. So this is our annual recharge that was done by USGS, just came out in June. And what it's showing here is our critical area where the Pennington County is outlined in black. But what we're showing here is an interdependence of water usage in western South Dakota. We can make the case that we all are fine. If you look at this map, Northern Hills is fine. On the west side of the Black Hills is fine. But when you really dig down into the numbers, there are 375 water systems in South Dakota. 302 are in the Black Hills, which tells you that a lot more people are punching down into those aquifers. So that, although this is current information, it shows you that there is, and some people find this bad, there is economic development that is happening. People are moving here. We had a governor that said that we're open for business, and people have come. Although economic development is part of the conversation that's going on, what I'm talking about here is infrastructure development. Without water, reliable water, what do you do? What do you do when the water doesn't turn, when you turn on your faucet and the water doesn't turn on? Some people can call somebody, but a majority of people don't know what to do. So what I'm asking you is to continue your partnership with Western Dakota Regional Water System, because what that does is it gives you a seat at the table to make these discussions, to be part of the solution. We know what the solution is. We either do an interdependent water system for the Black Hills, or we pipeline or water main the water over from the Missouri River. And that is currently what our engineers are at the final phase. In order to do this project, and we are looking anywhere from $1.2 to $3 billion, the federal government is a necessary part of this, in the sense that, of course, we need their support financially, but what we really need is the Bureau of Reclamation. So what happens is
pushing on your time, Ms. Condon.
The Bureau of Reclamation is positioned, and we are positioned for them to come in and do a feasibility study, which what we're hoping for. We've met with them. We've met with our delegation in Washington, D.C. and Pierre, and it looks like we are going to be going forward with that. We should get a final answer in July of this year. I have all this information in the packets, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Condon? Thank you for coming in today. Brings us down, we got through everything other than the opioid funding. I guess we did take some opioid funding requests. The one we have left, I guess, is action for the betterment of the community. I-2.
All right. Thank you again for allowing us to come in front of the Commission. My name is Kara Graveman. I'm the Executive Director of Action for the Betterment of Our Community. And I've brought along today Deidre Avery as our liaison with our youth leadership team, which facilitates a lot of the programming that we utilize through our opiate funding. I've kind of just briefly placed together a PowerPoint into kind of what the request is, what we've completed so far in the short interim that we've had the funding that you gave us for the current fiscal year, and the plans to kind of expand that and really ramp up some of the services. So some of the information that you guys have, one of the things I want to draw your attention to is in the state of South Dakota, there is a 41% bystander present. So what that means is when we have an opiate overdose in Meade County, 41% of those overdoses are accompanied by someone who can intervene. What the hope with our next funding is to look at mitigating some of those interventions and really equipping people with the means to intervene in those overdoses. And so what we're looking at, we have a really strong partnership that's come on board. We just had a meeting with them last week. Thank you. If you want to keep going down to the next one, that'd be great. So these are just some of the statistics that are from the state of South Dakota. They're opiate data. This is presented back to us every year. This is something that Meade County can kind of drill down in and see exactly where their overdoses are happening, what's going on, what interventions are needed, and what are some of the services that we're looking at. I want to draw your attention to the last little paragraph there, that according to the 2023 Midwest HIDA, which is the high intensity drug trafficking, they report that fentanyl will be the greatest drug that will intervene and move methamphetamine to number 2 in the next 5 to 10 years. What our hope is with some of this opiate funding is we can get ahead of that curve so that we're not scrambling like we did with methamphetamine or anything else that comes down. On that next slide there, this should look familiar to some of you that were at our presentation earlier in this year. This is what we call local PIN data. This is for Meade County only. If you drill down into the legend there and you kind of look, those are where actual overdoses happened, or we had issues where Narcan was administered or someone was taken into the hospital or other emergency services. This is data that is available to anyone in the public. I think it is helpful to kind of see where some of those interventions could be best utilized. And it is kind of the hope and what we're looking at for the next round of funding. On the next slide, some of the current use of the opiate funding. We did some You Matter stuff. We had an event out at the high school. We did Mental Health Week with our youth leadership team. We did place those opiate rescue kits. There is one in your jail. There is also one in the community center in the courthouse here. Our youth leadership group was actually asked to run the 2 state conferences. So Sturgis Brown High School youth leadership team facilitated a conference in Rapid City for all of the youth of western South Dakota, and then they traveled to Brookings to provide the second day of services for all of the youth in East River, South Dakota. They were able to kind of promote all of the things that they've been able to do in Meade County and all of the hopes they have for their student body and kind of the people that are going to take care of you and I as we get older. The next slide, if you don't mind, this is kind of what so ABC is requesting $30,000. We did receive $25,000 for the current year. We plan to really continue to ramp up our youth leadership team in the Sturgis Brown High School. We promote prevention, intervention, outpatient services. We facilitate New Dawn Enterprises, which is out in Vail, South Dakota. And we actually own property in Meade County with the first ever recovery community in western South Dakota. So what we're looking at, and one of the biggest things I think that will happen this year, and we plan to continue in the next few years, we are looking at distributing naloxone during the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. We are planning to partner with Midwest HIDA, who is willing to provide us with the state of South Dakota naloxone and overdose kits. What that means for Meade County is our hope is to get these to the campgrounds, to the tattoo shops, to any other place that sells alcohol or deals with overdoses in our community. What they're saying now, some of the issues we're running into, is a standard dose of naloxone isn't working anymore. The opiates we are seeing, there are 6 doses that are needed before the opiates are actually reversed. That is how far behind the ball we are currently. The state and Midwest HIDA are willing to partner with ABC, because ABC has a lot of the partners already in place in the county, to work on helping get these services and get these overdose kits into those campgrounds so that law enforcement isn't having to respond as often, that we're not having to triage a lot of this stuff, that there's a plan in place that we can work with the people who are in our counties. We plan to,
your time, Ms. Graveman.
Sorry. We plan to utilize more case management services and peer-to-peer programming. We also will continue to utilize our Dead on Arrival presentation and the Drug-Free World curriculum implementation in our alternative schools.
Thank you. Is there any questions? real good program.
Did you use some of that opioid money that we gave you this year for some of this drug stuff you're going to use during the rally?
No.
Okay.
So the hope will be, as I said, we were only contacted with Steve Artis 3 weeks ago. So this is going to be something we are going to pull together, and I think it's going to be successful. We have requested 500 naloxone overdose kits to distribute out during this motorcycle rally through our volunteers and our coalition members.
Have you ever done that in the past?
No.
I was just wondering how prevalent that was.
This is something that I think puts us ahead of the game, and this is something I believe very strongly ABC has the partners in place to not only make it successful but continue it each year.
What I meant was I didn't know how often there was drug overdoses out there in prior years, if you saw any statistics on that.
So unfortunately, only with the opiate overdose funding, that data started to get collected only in 2021. So we just haven't been tracking it for very long.
Yeah, well, I was just...
Yep,
I just
nope,
thought
we
maybe-
utilized our funding for the current year for all of our youth leadership promotion and our prevention efforts in the school.
Any other questions? And I thank you guys for coming in today.
Thank you.
I wish you success.
The commission have any desire to discuss anything on these outside agency funding, whether it's opioid or anyone in particular?
On the libraries, have we maxed out our library tax?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking we did.
In fact, I think we supplemented it.
Yeah, I seem to recall that. I just wanted to make sure that we had.
Yeah, it was maxed out last year, I know. Yeah, and that is a good point, Commissioner Wyzora, because that a lot of the libraries comes from the levy that's taxed, whereas all these others are coming out right out of the general fund.
I don't remember a year in which we never maxed out the library levy because it is so low. 10 years ago, we probably did triple the funding for libraries that we do
I
today.
seem to recall that when I got on, it was a little bit higher, and we kind of moved it to what the tax associated was, and tried to tie it to the tax. But a little bit, Piedmont Library has a little bit of a tougher spot than Sturgis because they get a ton of people out of Somerset. Somerset doesn't give any money, so they've got that city right next door that's kind of riding on that contribution. So they're struggling a little bit with that. I know.
Do you think that their participation went up this year? Because I think their contract with the work or the share between Meade County and Bennington or the Rapid City Library ended this year. So I wonder if
with Somerset, you mean?
Yeah, if the people from Somerset are now.
Yeah, the numbers. I'd have to go back and look at this. I seem to recall them saying their numbers
Seem like they're higher this year than last.
Oh, and just more people moving into the valley too.
Anything else the commission would like to discuss on outside agency funding?
Well, it has seemed to me like libraries are always one of the first things to be squeezed. I can remember back when I was a young'un in Windy Spot out there, a county commissioner said when it came time for funding libraries, the county didn't need to fund them because nobody ever used them or read. And based on his philosophy, I think he was probably speaking about himself.
Oh, let's not name names.
I'm not.
Anything else the commission would like to bring up on these outside agency funding?
No, it's just
tough.
And I'm concerned that we'll just see more because I mean, you look at the way the federal budget's going, and you got to believe the feds are going to start cutting back, and the states are already cutting back, and then you got the state legislature saying that spend too much money is the county, and it's all our fault for the reason people are feeling the squeeze on property tax. And
I was kind of surprised at how reasonably priced it is for somebody to have trees planted.
yeah, and that's on those districts. I was trying to figure out whether they do a separate tax. Do you know?
I don't.
No.
Or whether they have even the power to.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
No, Rhea, there's not a separate tax.
There's not, but do they have the power to is a good question. There's lots of things that can.
No.
Yeah.
I
think they're like water users districts. Have technical boundaries and stuff, but they don't have any tax. They're governmental entities, but they rely on the kindness of strangers.
I always have found this non-mandated funding time to be one of the hardest times to be a commissioner.
Well, but I mean, it's not mandated that we fund.
No, I said non-mandated funding requests to be the hardest as a commissioner, because everybody has a legitimate need and request, and frankly, for years I got tired of making the requests for the CASA because I could never get a second. Most of these gentlemen were not here.
Nope, it's a tough decision. A lot of needs, a lot of wants, and it's as Commissioner Weiserick brought up. There's just balancing our budget with what we have to do is not going to be an easy task this year. There's no doubt about that. So we'll, I guess, to be continued, unless anyone has anything else to bring on.
Well, it's just like the radios today. You know, when you come up with a unanticipated spending, I certainly didn't welcome having to spend that money. I think they probably made a pretty decent case, but I really want to find out what we can get rid of if we can save anything. Well, in those other areas.
It also brings up the point of importance to be conservative with our budget, and because we had the ability today to spend those funds that we felt was necessary. So,
well, and if we didn't have the possibility of that $1 million plus tower facing us,
the point I was trying to make was there's a lot of local entities and counties and municipalities that they don't have that ability because their budget is gone. So, nothing else on outside agency. Let's move down to J, consent calendar. Anything on consent anyone wants to talk about, or do I have some action?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Talbot, are you going to Black Hills Council on Thursday?
I thought you were going to do that.
Well, no, I am. I was just you always bring such good insight.
Is there a need for let's finish our meeting first? Is there
a
need for
we were done.
I don't care. If you have a need to go in exec, any commissioner needs to go in exec, state the reason, and move. Otherwise, let's move on. Okay, looks like we have completed our business. I'll just declare us adjourned. Thank you guys for your time today.
I'm sorry, I thought we were because